And a very good morning to you. It is Friday. Hello there. Welcome along.
You say it with such excitement, like, okay.
Yeah, but don't forget, I do, excuse me, go to work on a daily basis. So technically,
I don't.
No, I say go to. I don't say you don't work on a daily basis. I actually venture. See, I may be wrong, but it's highly unlikely.
Yeah. That is going to be the theme for today, baby.
I think the line.
Hey, I'm sorry I was a few seconds late, but Phil and I had a technical issue.
No one knows.
In other words,
I think the line
was rubbish.
is starting to fade.
What's that?
I think the line underneath on the t-shirt is starting to fade.
I hate you.
Yeah.
I've never liked you. I use you. Oh, she's back. Crazy name, crazy gal. Eve Phantom.
Hello, Eve.
I wonder where she's been. We haven't heard from her all week.
Ed
Grossman, happy Friday to you. Andrea Lucas, thank you, baked potato. If you want to know the way, just do everything the Andrea Lucas way. Wash your hands. What else? Hey, she's gone into baking big time.
But I wonder whether or not with Andrea, it's the same kind of principle as when Her Majesty hears God Save the Queen.
Yeah.
Whether or not if she's sick of it, but will never admit it.
I don't care. I love it. It amuses me enormously. And it's fun. And we're a big fan of Matt Lucas. So there you go. Rob Hagar, Sammy's son. Hi, Russ and Phil. Wouldn't that be great if he was Sammy Hagar's son? That would be fantastic. Sammy's about 72 now, 71, 72. Does that mean anything to you, Sammy Hagar?
Hagar does have a connection with theatre, darling.
Does he, love? Does he? Does he, love? Going to stop you there, love. I've got a few notes. Love.
I've got a bit of a disaster going on.
What's the matter? Not your hair, is it? Hair looks good.
I tried. Thank you. No, it's not. It's not there for once. I tried a bit of an experiment with a challah today. So anyone who doesn't know what a challah is, it's a plaited bread enjoyed by Jewish people around the Sabbath.
Anyway. Enjoyed by everybody. They just don't sell it in South London. All right.
No, that's
all right. Be lucky. Be lucky.
So I tried an experiment with a challah. I tried to tweak the recipe slightly, and I think it's going to be an absolute disaster before it even goes.
What did you do? Did you put in bacon? What did you do? Bacon and rind?
No, I took out
you just shoved it full of trafe.
I took out a small amount of water in the recipe because I thought that the dough was too soggy. Anyway, turned out I might have taken
soggy last week.
Well, it was.
Hang on, this is not a euphemism. Was your challah soggy last week? We're talking about bread, not his knob. Was it soggy last week?
Wow. Okay, that might.
There we go.
Boundary. Anyway, but yes, it's true that it wasn't terrible. Well, no, last week actually I didn't have it. Last week we used a frozen one. But no, anyway, the last one I did.
Was it McCain's Holler?
No,
Goodfellas Holler.
No, it was one we bought previously. In the
Hey, here's the thing, right? Your pal, Andrea Lucas, right? She's suddenly got into being the baking queen of New Orleans, right? And she posts all these pictures, the most fab. If I lived within like a 20-minute radius, Andrea, I'd be knocking on Andrea's door all the time because the bread looks fantastic. I don't eat bread. I really try and avoid bread like the plague.
Oh, I don't.
No, I try not to have it at all.
I mean, even before the show started today, regrettably, I've already eaten 2 crumpets.
You kidding me?
No, I'm not very good at not eating.
They not just sit on your chest like a lead weight, like you've got Andre the Giant in the WWE sitting on your chest, or Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Well, quite.
All the classics.
That. Seriously, Rob says, love Phil's laugh. I wouldn't if I were you. I just sound like I smoke about 100 a day. We
love your laugh. We love your laugh. Is good. For Andrews, boundaries.
I would like to set one thing very clear here. I do nowhere near 100 a day.
You don't smoke.
Oh, no, I don't.
You don't smoke. I don't smoke. I smoke cigars. I don't touch cigarettes. I can't bear them. Luckily, it's not a moral thing with me. I'm very lucky. I can't stand them. I can't stand the smell. When they're in the ashtray, I want to puke. I can't bear them. So there we are. That's a lucky break. That's a lucky break for me. Last time I had a pack of cigarettes must have been, oh my God, 40 years ago, 40 years ago. And I was walking up the street And my neighbor, Ian Miller. Ian Miller was a neighbor from South Africa. You do it better than me. Say Ian Miller in your South African way.
I'm not sure I know how to say Ian Miller.
And his wife, Jill Miller.
Right. So his wife would have been Jill.
Jill Miller.
It sort of depends what part of South Africa they came from.
They came from, I think they came from Joburg.
Then that's the accent you've just done there is far more Cape Townian.
I think they came from Joburg. Anyway, they were really lovely, and they lived just
a bit more drawn out.
Anyway, here's the thing, right? They lived just up the road from me, and I was walking up the road, and I used to occasionally have a pack of cigarettes on me. Just I don't know why, very rarely, and I can't remember what I smoked, menthol something or other. And he came rushing out of his house. Give me those. I went, what? He went, give me those cigarettes. You're not going to be like me. And I've never forgotten this. And he took the pack of cigarettes from me, snatched them off. He said, you're not going to be like me. You're not going to be a smoker. That was the last time I ever smoked. And I owed that to a very nice man called Ian Miller. He had the last laugh on all of us because this is so long ago. There was a new thing, and I don't know if you've heard about them, and I'm not sure they were accessed. Have you ever heard of a mobile phone, Phil? Mobile phone. Like a phone.
Hang on a
second. You can carry it with you.
I think it was that thing that you used to have to wheel on a trolley with a battery cable.
There's the one. There's the one.
Yep, I've heard of them.
There you go. So, anywho, for some reason, we all thought mobile phones were a load of crap. That's not going to catch on. And he invested in some company. He retired about 1 million years ago. He just plays golf. Seriously. He invested in a company. The thing went through the roof, and he just retired. He looked great. I saw him. I've never seen anyone look so. I've never seen anyone so relaxed. I ran into him, and I reminded him. I ran into him, I think, last year. I hadn't seen him in like forever, and he looked great. And his wife, Jill, never ages. Some people never age, you know? Amazing. Don't know how they do it.
Now, do you know what Ed Grossman says? It's a silly show today. It's a silly show today. Silly is good. Now, Ed, I have to tell you.
Yeah.
It won't be. This is the calm before the storm. But hopefully, I don't necessarily think that there's any such thing as a good storm, but it's an important storm. Let's put it that way.
There you go. That is very, 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 very true. Chrissy Holt from the middle of Spain with her tractor. Poor old Mike. I don't know. I feel sorry for Mike. I just do. I think Chrissy's probably pretty hardcore. I'm guessing. Anyway, she said, I tried smoking, but I didn't like it. There's a very old Jim Davidson gag there. I just can't be bothered to do it. Did I tell you I ran into Jim Davidson last week? Completely by pure chance in the street. Literally, I was sitting down somewhere.
I thought he
walked past.
I thought he lived abroad now.
I don't know where he lives, but he looked immaculate. A beautiful 3-piece suit on and a tie. He looked great. And we had a little chat, and off he went. I'm sure he didn't know who the hell I was, to be honest with you.
Yes, Chrissy. This is what I like to hear. Phil, I saw on YouTube a French chef making French toast with challah. I'm going to try it. Excellent work.
Okay.
I tell you, challah French toast is absolutely divine. The only thing I would advise, though, is that you do need to cook it on a low light and make it nice and chunky. Because if you do it on a high light, like normal French toast, making it thin, it doesn't have the same effect. So nice and chunky.
Like every woman's hair in northwest London, highlight.
Yes, quite. There we go. Nice and chunky slice of bread. Soak it in the egg.
Well, how big? What? How you give some idea? We don't know what you mean, chunky. Like this? What are you doing? Like this? What?
All right, about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch thick. It's lovely.
Okay.
Soak it in the egg, and then put it on a low light and cook it slowly, preferably
in a frying pan or what?
Yeah,
I'm completely lost. I don't know what you mean.
You got to fry it, absolutely.
Okay, just checking. All right. Okay.
It's not chicken; it's French toast.
All right, Paul Hollywood, take it easy. I tell you what's not bad. And and the occasions I do have bread, which I try and really keep to an absolute minimum because of all the sugar content and everything in it, is not that I don't miss it, but I do, is Paul Hollywood. You know those things you just pop in the oven, comes sealed up, you pop them in the oven, some of his rolls and stuff. They're really good. Really good. Really? Oh, that's right. Ed Grossman's agreeing with you. I've had it, Phil. Great. Andrea Lucas, it's yummy.
There you go. High praise indeed, if ever I heard it.
I think so. I'm starving. Crumpets, please, Phil. Emma Webb. See, I'm ready. I've had 2 espresso.
Can I just? Am I not all the crumpet you need? How dare you?
Can't believe he went there. Can't believe everything's sex with Phil, Dave.
Really?
Paul Claridge. Do you want to read this out, Philip?
Why not, indeed. Oh, right. Okay, that's probably not a good idea. We've disappeared now.
Fine, they don't have to see us. There's a plus. It's a plus. They're happy now.
Fine. Right. In that case, bear with me. Right. I'm going to pull it up on the other screen, you see, because Paul very kindly writes very long messages. As a result of it, they can't here on this screen. Right. So if we look here, he says, "Hi guys, how is everyone today? I've noticed an odd phenomenon in the last 10 days. People have started to reach out and ask for help because they are lonely or struggling mentally to cope. One or two have done it openly via social media, and few have done it privately. Of course, I and others have rallied to the call, and those who have asked for help are doing okay now, or are on the road to being okay. They did the important thing. They asked for help. Likewise, I have had calls from people asking how I am." He says that I have also phoned a few friends to check on them. Has this become a thing now? Are we all doing this more now than we did before? Well, I don't want to take any credit for that, Paul Claridge, but now
don't then.
Okay.
Wait for it, Paul. Wait.
I know. I actually, do you know what? I can't say I've noticed it personally, which is a shame. I'm really pleased to hear that you've noticed it, because I think that's super important. I'm really pleased to hear that, the very ethos that Russ and I bang on about on a near daily basis is something that is actually potentially starting to creep into normality. And it's a great thought. I really hope that is the case, but sadly, I haven't personally noticed it.
I've noticed, great, only 3 hours to go. My throat's gone. Been going 10 seconds. I've noticed that on Facebook, the newfangled Facebook. Anybody confused? So people are saying, I'm having a bit of a rough day today, and I think that's okay. I think that's really okay. It's as the news of the world used to be. All human life is there. It kind of is. I'm never going to make 3 hours. It's because I didn't sleep. Couldn't sleep last night. I set the lights low. All right. And I put on my headphones and I listened to the end of the new Sophie Hannah book. If you're a fan of Sophie Hannah, which I am, I write to her most days and she always replies. It's really lovely. Same with Anthony Horowitz. But and I finished the new book, and she's got the rights from the Agatha Christie estate to write new Poirot books, which is, of course, my idea of heaven. So I've read all of them. And I wanted to do this one kind of non-stop, and I finished it. I wrote it to her immediately. She came back, and it wasn't the point. And I thought, right, I'm going to bed early because it's, I'm going to try not to go into bed at 4 o'clock as I always do, so I can't sleep. To go to bed, hopeless. Got out of bed eventually after like 2 hours. I just couldn't go to sleep, so I just switched on the TV and just watched a lot of David Lee Roth and other stuff, which a lot of Joe Rogan, with some interesting interviews, and watched an American politician. No, sorry. This woman is a top writer for the New York Times. Phil, you wouldn't let her write a milk note. Milkman, 2 pints today, please. You wouldn't let her do. I mean, she was an idiot. And Joe Rogan was really polite. But what had happened, there was this group of people, and it was an event, and they analyzed everything she said. Oh, talk about unprepared. She came across like an absolute nitwit. And she's a chief journalist for the New York Times. It was garbage. She had nothing was substantiated. She kept U-turning. It was the most extraordinary thing to watch. It really did.
Now, here's an interesting thought for you.
Yep, go on.
This was actually something that came up this week on another station that I work on. I know, shock horror. And we're talking about U-turns. And the discussion was based on government U-turns, which of course we saw another U-turn this week where they decided to allow or insist that masks be worn at the discretion of head teachers in England in high schools in corridors. Are you keeping up with this? Anyway.
Yeah, I'm there. I've got the word corridor. I'm with you now.
Yeah. The upshot is that we asked the question, is a U-turn the sign of weakness or of a sign of strength? And actually...
Well, that is a hell of a question.
No, but the more I think about it, the more I think it's a sign of strength.
Mm.
Because it takes a very strong individual to admit they are wrong. Because, yeah, my point exactly. The issue, the point is that if you are prepared to say, look, do you know what? I made a mistake.
Yeah.
You own it. You then own that mistake. People can criticize that, but you then own that.
Yeah, absolutely. I screwed up. And then you got nowhere to go. It's the best thing to do. The best thing to do is to say, I messed up. I'm really sorry. I made a mistake. And then people can't say there's nowhere to go with that. It's always the best. It's always the best policy. The trouble is in life, non-political life, just life in general. If you make a mistake, the best thing is to say, I'm really sorry. I completely effed up that with that. What can I tell you? And most people will go, okay, and you move on. But in politics, of course, you've got to drag it out and make every inch of political capital that you possibly can from anything, which is pathetic, which is why nothing ever gets done, because you've got this stupid adversarial point-scoring nonsense. That's why nothing ever gets done. And things are just done to hack off the other side. It's pathetic. So I think, yeah, if you and also, if you're in uncharted territory and you're having to learn on the job as you go along, things will change. It's a fluid situation. So I don't think it's the world's worst thing to have a U-turn, although I'm a little confused. I'm very confused. Everyone's now being urged to go back to work. What is that about? Don't go to work. Don't go to work. Stay at home. Oh, no, go to work now. It's okay.
No, I'd suggest that's very simple, is that there is this harsh realization that if you don't go back to work, there is a very strong chance that you will be seen as surplus. Your job could become at risk if you did that. And I highly doubt that the government would be advising people to go back to work if they thought there was a major health threat. Because
what happened to the stay at home and work at home? What happened to all of that? Has that just gone out the window now?
I would imagine that's at the discretion of individuals. But of course, what happens with working from home is that those others who rely on workers who work on a daily basis in various parts of the country, such as cafes and restaurants and other bits and pieces, they're going to go out of business as well. And there'll be more people out of work. You know, it's a food chain if you think about it. So,
no, literally. No. Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, people always said, you take a silly example. Well, it's not that silly, but you take an example like theatres. And people go, oh, poor actors. And then people say, oh, wait a minute, whoa. You got the box office staff, you got the wardrobe mistress, you got the wardrobe team, you got all the electricians, you got all the sound people, you got the people selling the ice creams and the brochures and, you know, the programs, all of that. So that's just the theatre. And then you think, well, people like to go and have something to eat before or after theatre. Boom, all that restaurant trade, all that bar trade, drinks trade, snack trade has gone. Pre-theatre meals, gone. So the ramifications for that are absolutely vast. And I'm not in the catering trade, never have been. But you assume that all these restaurants and cafes obviously have to buy supplies. So all the people who were providing the supplies, that business is gone. You know, it's a huge deal. Everything is a ripple effect. That's why this is so devastating. The consequences, you know, it knocks on, and people didn't at first appreciate just how much it would knock on. Morning to you, Ian Foreman. Good morning to Martin Bell in Mallorca. Ed Grossman.
Russ. Rest assured, I will return.
Where you going? It's not your. You're cooking, aren't you? You're going to the kitchen.
I've got to go take the collar out. Back in a jiffy.
I want to replace him with a Roman Catholic. I want a Church of England. I want a Protestant, or I want a Roman Catholic, or an agnostic, or an atheist, or just a scientist. Have you ever watched any other show with a guy? Oh, I've got the horror in the oven. I'll be back in a minute. What is this? This is ridiculous. I blame my cousin Francine. Mallorca, listening on Open Mind Mallorca. We're having a little bit of a tie-up and see if we can help each other. A very nice chap called Martin Bell, who lives and works in Mallorca. He's got an organization called Open Mind, which is very similar in ethos to what we're trying to do on men's radio and women's radio. And that is great. Right, Michael Swindles. Well, I call him Michael Swindles because it's posher. Lots of friends work for Sheffield Theatres. Huge cuts underway. And Michael would be able to tell you. Oh, that's very, very good. Glassy Amanda, thank you. I know, unbelievable. He is a law unto himself. Can you imagine if this was Radio 4? Prime Minister, I'd like to continue this conversation, but I'm afraid I have to take the holler out the oven. I'll be back in a moment if you'd like to amuse yourself. Perhaps talk to the weather person. What the hell's all that about? Ian Foreman, Sue Moxley, who's coming onto the show later. Sue Moxley, I haven't seen in years, is practically my neighbour. Does she keep popping round? You got any milk? I'm out of milk. Probably doesn't talk like that. I can't remember how she talks. The thing about theatres, and I've said it before, this is the time of year when all my theatre panto pals start putting it, and you think, oh, Christ, don't tell me it's nearly December. And they start putting up the posters of their latest panto. That would be, the Mike Doyles, the Jeff Stevensons, the Hilary O'Neills, and all of that gang, Russell Grant, and everybody like the Bobby Crush, everybody. And of course, no pantos. Now, the thing about that, and I do keep mentioning it because the ramifications will be huge, is that most theatres, forget London's West End, Shaftesbury Avenue, most regional theatres make their money on the 2 months of panto. That allows them to have the rest of the 10 months to make so much money in that 2 months, which I used to do in Wimbledon or in the other place, Woking. These are huge things. And so they're not going to get any of that income. And that's going to, I don't want to hear about it, Paul Hollywood. I'm not interested. Paul Claridge, can we replace, no, I'm not interested. Can we replace, all right, how's it going?
Can we replace Phil with a Satanist?
Yeah, I think this is good. This is good. People we don't like, they can hex.
Ta-da.
What am I looking at? Looks like
That's
a bomb. You made a roll? You made hollow rolls?
No. I made a collar, but I broke off some as a little roll just to test it because I was really worried about how this one was going to work out. So I thought I'd make a roll separately.
He's just going to eat through the show. This is just crap. You know that. This is just he probably went to Waitrose, bought some bread, did a whole thing, had to leave, came back, and now he's eating Waitrose bread, pretending he's made it. Is it any good? You going to taste it now?
It's a bit hot, but it's a bit stodgy. Anyway,
it sits on your chest like Dwayne Johnson. I mean, all right, Ian Foreman. My daughter has been made redundant from the Sondheim Theatre. Oh God, where Les Mis? Yeah, I mean, it's horribly sad. And although here's my take on it, I don't know where Phil stands on this, but when life is so difficult and tough and uncertain, art. And it's not pretentious to say that, but art, whatever form your art might be, it might be watching Ray Gelato and the Giants. It might be watching Shakespeare. It could be watching stand-up comedy. It really doesn't matter what it is, but you need it. Going to a gallery, looking at paintings, looking at portraits. It's a really, it's an important thing. It's life enriching. And
now that's curious you say that you need it, because I think of certain parts of the world where, and I'm not getting all hippie on you or anything like that, but if I think of certain parts of the world where there's absolutely nothing of the sort, mind you,
survive.
Mind you, I suppose, I was just about to say there's no live theatre or anything like that, but actually, do you know what? People make their own entertainment. I've seen it firsthand. That you can see that there are
Bedouins in the middle of the Sahara go, What's on at the multiplex Saturday? I'm thinking of going out. What do you think? Yeah, I might go there. Great place to park my camel. Park there and pick and mix would be nice. Be that. Indeed, 80. This is Michael Swindles. 80% of the trade in 20% of the. I'm going back to the X's, right? The rest allows production of quality, but mainly loss-making shows, which means it can be slightly. Which means it can be slightly experimental, right? My light just collapsed. It's slightly experimental, which is good. You don't want everything to be the same blooming thing, It's some of the experiments are bloody awful, and some of them fantastic. You never know where you're going to go. Francine Warner, hips. Okay.
Back him.
I'm really liking this idea of replacing you with a Satanist. I think by doing that, it cuts out the middle.
Yeah. Hang on, have a listen. That's not good. Listen to how this drops on the plate. Oh, that's really heavy.
What do you want me to do about it? It's your fault. You made it. You are totally responsible. No one else, not one listener, nobody. You are fully responsible for the failure of the holler.
Actually, do you know what? I tell you someone who does have something to answer for is my esteemed colleague, James Max, because he was the one. And he said, and I quote, when last time he saw a photo of the holler I'd made, he said, I expect you to have a better rise on that today.
Not the first time he's used that phrase.
I believe he was talking about the holler. But when I told him that I've got a horrible feeling that the amount of water that's added to the yeast is a little bit too much and too in excess, that might be what the problem is.
We're going to spend 3 hours doing this. I think we should, when we get our guests on, and they're like the brains of Britain and they're geniuses, I think we should just only discuss holler with them and see how that goes. I think that'd be fantastic. Excellent genius. Yes, I'm Emeritus Professor of Psychology from Oxford, and thank you for having me on the show. Thank you, Doctor. Holler, yes or no? It would just be like, and keep a straight face. Be genius.
Ed
be
Gross,
genius.
Watching The Odd Couple.
Oscar.
Right. So, seeing as you're so hell bent on making sure that we get back on track, let's have a look.
I'm not. I'm just tickled with my stupid idea of getting these eminent psychologists and psychiatrists. Holler. Where do you stand on bagels? Well, that's not my specialty. I'm sorry. I have only a PhD in holler. Bagels. My colleague in Boston at MIT is, in fact, discussing bagels. Great.
If you stand on bagels, you end up with pancakes. Anyway,
it's kind of not a gag. That's just true.
It's true. Actually,
Hey, you got a second? I want to ask a question. I'm changing the subject because I'm breaded out here, baby. Hang on, Michael Swindles. Oh, this is for you, Phil. God,
thanks. He says, doesn't the water added to the yeast evaporate during the bake? It's the fats that add to the weight.
That's why I don't eat it. That's why I don't eat it. My cousin, my cousin friend, very kindly, bagels.
No, don't.
You see, again.
None of that.
That's next Friday's 3-hour show. Bagel or bagel?
Bagel. We're British.
Have your say. Moneybox Live. Hello. It's completely man. Don't let me interrupt your breakfast, Phil. Whatever. That's the main thing. Chrissy Holt, you don't want his recipe. It looks like you could lay the M25 with it. God damn. The clinical studies of holler. Glacia Amanda, you're absolutely right. Well, we're very, very pleased to be. Thank you for having us on the Today program. 10,000 people took part in this trial. Some had indigestion and some didn't. And what we're saying is under this government, indigestion seems to have risen. This is what they did. They take any old crap and twist it. Doesn't really matter. Hang on. Andrea Lucas. Now, look, her stuff, I've got to be honest, I've never met Andrea, but the photos look fantastic, and I don't eat bread. You need to follow my recipe and let the yeast and sugar with small amount of water rise first. Then when first rise, put it in the air. You've got an airing cupboard? Do you have a scullery as well?
Really?
Airing. Do you scrub your front porch step? put that red polish on. My grandmother used to. And the airing cupboard about an hour to rise. Who the hell's got airing cupboards? I'm not even sure I got cupboards. Tell you what I discovered today for the first time in 3 years, which I never knew I had. A smoke alarm. I didn't know I had a smoke alarm. Beep, beep. I thought, bloody hell's that? It was my smoke alarm went off. Sausages.
Now look, don't panic. I'm going to disappear for 2 seconds.
Oh, geez. Now what? Bacon ready? I don't know what he said.
As if by magic.
What was that? Was that like techno?
No, sorry, it was just an unfortunate event. But as if by magic, I reappear over here, you see. Because now I'm on the Rome. Right, you ready for this? Look.
You're in Rome?
I'm on the Rome. Look, isn't this exciting? I'm suddenly free.
Going out now live to our Phil Dave, our Holler reporter. Phil, are you there on the scene? I
am. Now, Hips is standing by, but I'm going to ask Hips just to turn the speaker off, because otherwise you'll hear everything over here. So,
why am I investing my money?
It's fine.
Me, Howard and Penny. This is our money. This is our money's going. This is on, so you can talk about bread.
Okay. Right now, the reason why Hips is around is because the collar is here. So I'm going to ask Hips. She doesn't want to go on camera for some reason. So I'm going to ask Hips to try the collar.
The big news.
We just had some
as it breaks. There was a little flash of Hips. I'm getting reports in that Hurricane Holler is hitting the East Coast from Boston. Right, what
it's delish.
Is you? Oh,
It's Hips.
It's delish. Love it. But I'm just having a
delish like Lillian Gish. It's good. But she'd say that. She doesn't make
that as well.
In front of 3 people.
Apparently, it's quite salty. But we don't understand why.
Ramsey, no, it's not. It's not. I don't think there's any air in it. It's just solid. You could lay. Tarmac is less solid.
I didn't have any more salt. I don't understand it.
Could you two not have a debate in the middle of a 3-hour show about mental health and well-being? Because
look,
what?
Collar is all about well-being for me on a Friday. It makes me happy.
Does it? See, I just had a boiled egg. That's me. I'm done. I had 2 espressos and a boiled egg. I'm a happy man. That's all I have. Michael Swindles definitely need Phil's mum for baking tips. The lovely Linda Dave, who lives in a house like this. Let's look at their clues. David, over to you. Thank you, the sainted Lloyd Grossman. Chantal Rickards,
studio audience.
Martin,
not our panel. Here's whose house it is. Anyway, I'm going to make the jump now.
I am losing the will to live. I swear to God, we're on the wrong side. Oh, I can't bear it.
But for some reason, that's the side that we seem to be assigned. When I go back to this machine,
Andrew Lucas, I can't have this. She said, I had one of my bagels with scrambled eggs and smoked salmon, delicious. I couldn't face that. Just have a hard-boiled egg, which I cooked the night before. Bring it out the fridge, have it with salt. Boom, done, finished. End of story. That's breakfast sorted. Couple of coffees. Right. What else we got? Indigestion may have risen. Shame the bread didn't. Well done, Paul. You up a ladder today? Michael Swindles, Phil's bread. It does look solid enough that it could prop up the economy. Yes, totally. So it's bagels, not bagels. Yeah, my grandmother used to always say bagels. I mean, she's been dead 1,000 years, but it was always bagels, which she'd got down the Ridley Road. Anybody old enough to remember that? The Ridley Road Market. And there was a place in the Ridley Road that was kind of legendary when I was a kid called the Egg Stores. That was the name of it. The Egg Stores. How freaking niche can you get? What's the name of your shop? The Egg Stores. What do you sell? Hazard a guess. Hang on, Michael Swindles. I'll be able to listen more frequently as I'm retiring on the 2nd of October. Michael, you're 27 years old. How can you be retiring? Ridley Road, says Glassy Amanda.
Yes. Only one way to respond to someone announcing their retirement. Bravo.
Michael, a serious question. What the hell are you going to do with yourself? The idea of retiring would fill me with absolute terror. My stomach actually knots up if I think about it. I wouldn't know what to do. Really road. Yep. My grandmother and my mother, they grew up in Stanford Hill. So pots and pans from the egg stores. Ian Foreman. He's the man. That's exact. He's 52. He's retiring. Were you lead singer in U2 or something? What? You changed your name to Bono. You're 52 and you're retiring. How is that humanly possible? Not that we're jealous.
I'm at 53.
We're not jealous at all. Part-time masters in creative writing. He's getting on my nerves now. I'll be honest with you. This Michael Swindle is getting on my nerves. Part-time masters in creative. That is a good idea. That is a good. But the lane was even better for bagels. Three a penny, Andrea.
Crumbs, they must have been very bad quality.
Jesus, 3 a penny. You serious? You could get 3 bagels. We're going to call them for the old timers. For a penny. How did that work?
Don't worry, everyone. I'll call them by the name they're actually supposed to be.
No, American. No. Over here, we're talking about the round bread with a hole in the middle, right? Like a polo mint, but full of cholesterol, right? 89? What is that? Who's 89? My cousin suddenly got mad. She just suddenly said 89. What are you picking random numbers out the air, Francine? What? 89? I don't know. 62?
You have to be empathetic towards your cousin's blatant number Tourette's. She obviously has a condition where she's going to start yelling random numbers.
Yelling numbers. Then her husband. Michael.
She'll be right in the middle of a sentence. 68, and without any warning whatsoever.
Fran, where are my glasses? Can't find my glasses. Fran, right. 80 pence each bagel. Hang on, wait a minute. Where? I think my cousin's gone round the bend. That's because she got named in a book.
Brick Lane on a Saturday PM was the place for bagels. Yes, Amanda, you're quite right. I do like a Brick Lane bagel.
Are they good there? I mean, I could get to Brick Lane. It's not far from where I am, really. I could get there if you could drive anywhere.
Where I am.
Warren Wood. Well, that's near you, isn't it?
Wait, Fran, do you go to Orly's Bagel Cafe?
We finished with this?
Andy Lucas, I mean, you never knew it was possible to make an entire hour be about Jewish bread. Andy Lucas, I am remembering what some of the
will to live. Go on.
Because Andy Lucas works at a day. Well, when times are normal, she works at a day centre where helps look after those of senior years, I think is the best way of putting it. And as a result of it, she's obviously had conversations with them. Michael Swindle is expecting big tips from you. Good Lord. From you, Russ. I retired at 50 and my replacement was my replacement was so incompetent, I got summoned back for a year. Wow. Only a week over Christmas off in 9 months. Whoops.
Blimey.
Right, shall we try and start talking to people about what's coming up on today's show? Because I think this is actually...
I'm quite enjoying. I think we're talking about this for another 2 hours. Ed Grossman, Facebook is in trouble. I'm not seeing the comments you are reading now. Ed, they should be on the... well, if I can see them, and I'm the least techno person on the planet, it's not quite true, but I pretend to be. Should be there. Russ's face, can't believe this just... What the hell? What can I do? What can I do? Anyway,
it's called using loaf.
Hey!
I've been told this sort of humor is on the rise.
Wait for a dough gag any minute. Wait for it. You know it's coming, don't you? You know it's on the way. He's simply waiting. It's burning in his mouth. He's got to do the dough gag. I'll just sit and wait.
Anyway, let's have a look and see what's coming on today's show.
Are bagels gluten-free? Jameson Wisdom. Jameson. If you want to have indigestion and not be able to eat for 2 days, just have a couple of them. I can't eat these things. They just, once you stop that and take it out of your diet, it's like Oh, suddenly I'm a little bit slimmer.
I have to tell you, I am feeling a little bit stodgy in the chest.
I don't like that. It makes you sleepy. Earning your dough today. Thank you, Ian. We got it out the way at last. Thank you. I know somebody had to go and do that. Andrea Lucas is telling off Ed Grossman. The last one was 10 minutes back. Whoa, that's interesting. I don't know why that is, Ed, but everyone else seems to be rocking and rolling. Right, Michael Swindles, we need a recipe and a video of the making of the soup. All right, so your homework, Phil Dave of Hertfordshire, if your mum will let you into the kitchen unsupervised, is we want to see the whole process.
I mean, you say that.
We'll try and make it interesting, you know? You are the Fanny Craddock of Hertfordshire.
Well, I've been called something similar.
Yeah, that's... They used to kill me. God, when I was a little boy watching Fanny and Johnny Craddock, I thought that's how people were. And you look back on it now, you think, Jesus, they were just raving mad.
You say that like there's something wrong with that.
She revolutionized how we were. You know, you'd come out, the country had come out the war, and people forget, especially Americans, that, you know, even in the 50s, they were still recovering from the war. It was very, very, very much in people's mind. What's the matter? You got your biggest... Are you hot? Well, take your jacket off.
It's all this talk of Fanny Craddock.
Oh, it's the Fanny gag. Very good. I can't believe it. Andrea Lucas coming back to Jameson Wisdom's...
Russ, do you get it? Because it's a fan. Fanny Craddock. It's
no, I don't get the Fanny gag. Right. Andrew, if you use gluten-free flour... Oh, for God's sake, please move on. I'm begging you now. I'm begging. Even your father's leaving. He's so bored. Right, come on.
Best bagels I had were in Toronto. Blimey, that's a schlep. Better than the ones I had on Brick Lane at the old bagel shop in Finsbury Park. Ramsey, what a claim. I can't...
Toronto.
So every time I have bagels...
Yeah. Do you want to hear my Toronto story? Well, you're going to anyway. If I have to listen to
hang on, is that genuinely an option, or is this a precursor to warn us that it's coming?
Well, it's either or. I mean, you know, we're not going to have a referendum. We want to hear Russ's Toronto story. So I went up when I was working in New York City, and I had to go up to fire an ad agency and hire another ad agency. I went to Toronto, and I was taken out for dinner in the days when one drank large. And so we go up to the top of I think it's called the CN Tower or something, right? And I'm having dinner and I've got my briefcase down and everything, you know, with these business people. I'm in my 20s, Mr. Big Shot. And
wait, you had a briefcase?
Yeah, I had a briefcase. Oh yeah, I was smashed, right? I was absolutely smashed. And
quite smart.
So I go to the loo. I said, I'll be back. Okay, Russ. I go to the loo and I come back and suddenly I find myself in the middle of an Alfred Hitchcock film.
Pardon?
The whole restaurant has changed. I've been in the loo, done a wee, wasn't long, washed my hands, obviously. Come out. Everything's different. My table's not there. I don't recognize anything. And eventually I keep looking around, I think, how smashed am I? I find the group of business people that I'm with from the new ad agency that I've just appointed in my 20s. Jesus, whatever happened to my life? And I sit down and I've got my briefcase by my side. I look down, my briefcase is gone. It's not there. How is this even possible? I was so smashed, I hadn't realized that the top of the CN Tower revolves. The places where all the tables are, I don't know if it's still there, I've no idea. The whole thing revolves. So when I went to the loo, which doesn't revolve, because that would be deeply unpleasant, right? Of course, the whole of the restaurant had revolved. So when you come out the door of the loo, the restaurant's changed. And I put my briefcase down on the bit that was stationary, and I was revolving. Never forgotten that. I thought it was hilarious.
That sounds like a really brilliant episode of Jonathan Creek, you know.
But it's completely true. I didn't realize the restaurant was revolving.
It sounds like exactly the kind of thing that could happen, where someone just happens to pay a visit and then wakes up in a parallel universe, not realizing that actually all that's happened is that they've taken a trip on the Eiffel Tower or whatever it is that just revolves, and they didn't realize.
Oh, Paul Claridge. All right, totally off subject, but it's fine. There's no agenda here, as you may have noticed. Last Saturday, a few of us ventured out to Watford. Come on, you bees, for Paul Perkins Memorial. Oh,
Wasps.
I thought they were the bees. And we're talking about Paul Perkins. No jokes for a sec. It was a lovely little pub, so numbers were limited, but it was lovely being with his family and other close friends to share memories of the man himself. Paul Perkins took his own life. And we knew him well. He was a huge fan of radio. He'd write to me often about radio stuff and comment on Facebook. And I felt that I knew him, and I had met him. And it was really sad because he disappeared. They found his car, and everyone thought, "Oh my God, this was in the woods." It was like a P.D. James novel. It was horrible. And he turned up. So we all went, "For you, this is okay." And then he went and did it, and this time he succeeded, if that's the right phrase, but you know where I'm going with this. And so Paul Claridge, who knew him very well, was just talking about his memorial there. I feel so sorry for his family. Horrible. Anyway, there we go. So thanks for that, Paul. Back up the ladder. Off you go. Back up the ladder in Croydon, throwing down newspapers to people. I hope you haven't got spat on this week. By the way, question for Paul Claridge, and you can answer this. When it's pouring with rain, like yesterday was like a monsoon, right? Do you stand up? What?
We had a bit of a flood going on yesterday.
It was unbelievable yesterday. I was, I had to go into town, and I was like, I was just swimming. It's like the Esther Williams. Do you still stand there in the lashing rain? In all seriousness, do you stand there in the lashing rain and hand out the free newspapers? Even it's standard, isn't it? Standard. Isn't it weird? When I was a little boy, and if I was with Dad, he took me into the office, and on the way home, he would buy 3 evening papers: News, Star, and Standard. Evening News, Evening Star, and the Evening Standard. It's amazing, isn't it? To think that that's what people did. You would buy 3 evening papers. The thought of it now is just crazy. Oh, good. Russ, the reboot worked okay. Well done, Ed. Ed's back to speed. This is good.
Isn't it amazing what a quick reboot would do?
He said, yeah, because I had to do exactly the same thing first thing. Because Phil was not happy with the broadcast. The American called them Bialys. What do they call? Call them what? The Bialys are back in town. Thin Lizzy. I don't know. What is a Bialy? Andrea, shed some light. I've actually no idea. Hey, Philip, what is happening in the show today, apart from endlessly talking about your culinary skills?
Well, I'm so pleased you asked that, because coming up in about 10 minutes' time, we are going to meet Mahyar Rezaei, and I really hope that I pronounced his name properly, because I hate mispronouncing it.
So what's he going to do?
But he is going to talk to us about living with clinical depression, actually. Now, I know that if anyone thinks we're being really jovial, why? Well, this is kind of why. It's about a little bit heavy, possibly even heavier than the cholera roll. But the point is...
That would be almost impossible, but...
Not quite. But the point is that it's an important subject. And it's one that doesn't get spoken about really very often. Certainly not on other radio stations. Maybe we speak about it once in a while. But I think it's really important for us to actually learn what the difference is between clinical depression and feeling a bit down. Because I can't count the number of times that I've heard people say, really out of term, that they'll say something like, "Oh, I'm really depressed today." And
no, you're not. You're just a bit blue. You're not depressed. It's a misnomer, Phil. You're quite right. It's a misnomer. You can't say, "I'm depressed. I'm feeling a bit fed up." But believe me, it's the world of difference.
Yeah. So I'm very pleased. I'm very honored to say that Mahyar is going to tell us the difference.
I got to just say to you, Phil, I just got to say to you, I've had a lot of messages from this chap, and I'm going to be polite. They're a little off the wall. They're quite strange, because I copied Phil on this. So it's going to be an interesting interview because I hope it's not going to be quite as weird as his messages to me, which are seriously weird. Okay. But I thought, no, I want someone, if someone's brave enough to come on and talk about clinical depression, let's get them on. That's what we're all about. It's not all about Phil's bread. It is what, yeah.
You'd be forgiven for thinking so.
That's all right. Okay, people like it. People like, it's light and shade. If you had 3 hours of really heavy, miserable talk, it's too much. And I'll be honest, it'd be too much for me. It would be too much to me because we do get involved. Phil and I do get involved. When we speak after the show and it's been a heavy show, it's you connect. It's not like when you're sitting there and someone's coming in and plugging a new book or a new movie like the talk show host where they don't give a good goddamn. Why should they? They're just on a publicity jamboree. It's part of the contract when you make a movie. You have to do all this nonsense. This is real life and people sharing really deep stuff. And, especially like Nick Jordan when he phoned in after his suicide post. He's still getting grief about that. I was reading today. Nick Jordan, who joined us, we did a special on a Wednesday, Phil and I, and this was the chap who posted a suicide note on Facebook, and then the next day he, thank goodness, was okay, and I reached out to him, and we talked for an hour, Phil and I, with Nick in Australia. It was very interesting, very telling. He's still getting beaten up about it. What's the matter with people? He wasn't fooling around. You should see what he looks like now.
I hear what you say about people saying what's the matter with people. But I wonder whether or not it's a very strange sign that people cared that they don't want him to do it. And that they don't know how to react to it. So they just have a go at him as sort of a default setting, which I'm not.
Everyone reached out to him, which was a beautiful thing. It was lovely. It was actually weirdly, and I use my phrase carefully, it was life affirming that people actually cared. What they're reaching out, what they're annoyed with is they think it was attention seeking. That's their phrase. It's not mine. Putting a suicide note on social media is attention seeking. Come on. If you're in that much of a state and you've made up your mind, this is what you're going to do. Come on. Cut people some slack here.
See, I don't deny. I think there are some people who would do that for attention online. Now, whether or not, and I was very blunt. This is nothing I didn't say to Nick, by the way.
You did.
I said, I'm afraid there are some who could see it as just a bit of a cry for attention.
Yeah.
Truth is, if you are going to kind of put that kind of content online, you're going to get a response to it. If you genuinely want, and I am not encouraging this, by the way, please cry out for help. Please ask for help. Speak to your closest friend, relative, whoever it is. For God's sake, please, please, please speak to someone if you are feeling in any way like this.
Yeah.
But if you put a message out on social media, rather than maybe writing a note that just happens to be found after the dreaded deed is carried out, then there's going to be a difference in response to that. Yeah. You have to know there's a difference in response to that. That's just obvious. It's exactly the same way that if you go to pin a little notice on your community board in the local post office, you're not going to get the same response from that as you are by posting something on social media. It's just standard. But I'm very pleased he did, because thank goodness he's still here to tell the tale, and he very kindly told us his tale.
We have to. He did, and he was very open about it. I must say, he looks. Man, he was posting some pictures today. And from the time we saw him the first time as a guest on Men's Radio to the other week, man, he looks rough. It upset me. I mean, he's not a pal of mine or anything, but it just, just one human to another. It upset me. Paul Claridge, who is a lovely man. I go on about Paul because I think he's exemplary. And the reason I say he's exemplary, he fought cancer. It's always terrible, but he had it really, really rough. I mean, it's never good, but this was bad. And he's always retained his sense of humor, his optimism, everything about him is great. And he goes, and what does he do? He hands out free newspapers. That's what he does. All right. So some of the people watching and listening to the show are captains of industry. Some of you have retired. Some of you are just starting out in life. Some of you are in theatrical. This is what Paul does. He hands out newspapers, and I've met Paul many times, and he's a charming and very caring guy. So I posed the question, like yesterday, it was absolutely pouring with rain. Does he have to stand out in the lashing rain? This is what he says. Yes, when it's raining, we still hand out the papers. Luckily for me, the lovely staff at East Croydon Station allow me to move under the cover of the glass canopy outside the station. At other stations, life never ever fails to disappoint, does it? At other stations, they aren't so lucky. So if it rains, they get wet.
Meanwhile, Michael Swindles says anyone who needs that type of attention likely deserves it. And Michael, please don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting for a second they don't deserve it. I promise you I'm not. I'm just saying I think that it is known, or it must be known deep down.
You have to defend yourself. You didn't say anything.
That there is a difference between, say, attaching a note to yourself for if heaven forbid someone decides to do that kind of act versus thinking about it out loud. But he says what has happened is that sections of our society are now harder and tougher, thank you very much, than Phil Bread.
So the baseline for when things are terrible now is Phil's bread. Okay, that is the baseline. That is the metric baseline that we have set for bad things. Phil's bread. How bad is this situation? Bad? It's Phil's bread.
Believe in that case that is a barometer, and I'm very proud that I have set a barometer. Anyway, should we try and gauge?
How do we go?
Not really a wonder.
How do we go from pinning a suicide note on your shirt to discussing your bread in a heartbeat? And everyone's going, yeah, that makes sense.
I need to tell you that I think actually that is what's unique and beautiful about men's radio and women's radio. Is that as much as I appreciate people could say we're being flippant, we're being dismissive, we are making light of something serious, it's very simple. The reason why we have to make light in the shade is because the subjects we cover are incredibly heavy. And if we just spoke straight-laced about heavy subjects for 3 hours, I don't know about you listening, because you've got the beauty to turn off. But to be perfectly honest with you, I think I speak for Russ and I. If we had to continue for 3 hours about it, it would affect us badly.
Well, it does affect. I mean, it's an open secret, and I've discussed this before. But we do get affected. I'm sure there's a lot of broadcasters who, just fake being interested. They couldn't care less. They're not interested. I mean, they're not. And so many names I could name, which I won't bother. They're not interested. They're interested in, their show and whether the guest ends up crying or, in a complete mess. Great radio. It's great TV. Oh, good. They broke down in pieces. Perfect. Good for the ratings. But Phil and I do feel emotionally, and I hope that comes across, but we do feel emotionally invested in this. And, sometimes when the show's been really heavy, after the show, Phil and I are talking, it's like, wow, I feel emotionally drained. And I think that's a human reaction. I think if it doesn't affect you, I think there's something wrong.
Hey, do you know what?
I think there's something wrong.
I think, speaking of affects us and getting serious, let's welcome our first guest, because he's been very patiently in the digital green room for us.
How's the catering? You didn't serve him your bread, did you, today? Because that's going to put him off.
Sakes. He's looking very smartly presented. He's poised as a spring, so I think it's very rude not to bring him into the conversation. We're going to talk now about, there's no easy way to talk about it. We're going to talk about clinical depression. So, I mean, you can say we were clowning about for the first hour. This is why. Because we're going to talk about a very serious subject now, but an important subject, and one that it's absolutely essential we have an open and honest discussion about, because otherwise I don't believe people are going to really learn the difference between clinical depression and feeling a bit glum. Yeah. And I know that Andy has commented saying there's a big difference between clinical depression and just being fed up. And I think that's what an awful lot of people get confused with feeling. It's not depression per se. They potentially just feel a bit fed up. Well, our first guest on today's show can most definitely right those misconceptions. He's Mahyar Rezaei. I hope I've said his name properly. He's going to kill me if I haven't. But Mahyar, have I said your name properly? Let's establish that.
Well, gentlemen, a very good morning. Well, good afternoon, first and foremost. And Phil, that is a very commendable effort. When bearing in mind the vast majority cannot pronounce it, but nonetheless, your efforts do merit praise. That's very close.
Thank you. So can you please correct me on how it should be said? Because I really
So
want
the pronunciation is Mahyar Rezaei. But again, and I reiterate, you're within very close proximity of
I'm
pronouncing
loving
it right.
this guy
So
straight away.
there we
Loving
go.
this guy.
So there we go. You've got the call extra brownie points for the weekend. There we are.
Well, Mahyar Rezaei, it's a pleasure to welcome you onto Men's Radio and onto
Much
the day.
obliged. Thank you for having us. Thank you both for having me on your platform there to discuss such an integral health-related issue.
Can we start off first and foremost with that very question? What is the difference between clinical depression and feeling a bit glum or feeling fed up, as Andy Lucas is one of our listeners puts it? How do you know the difference?
So again, there is certainly a vital distinction between having clinical depression, which is an ongoing condition, as it were, so it's a medical condition, so to speak, and just feeling a little bit low or anxious, and bearing in mind these are very much these thoughts are often connected to depression in some form. They are mere repercussions or be affiliated side effects. However, the vital distinction manifests itself insofar as the fact that with clinical depression, these symptoms very much are merely part and parcel of a much greater, broader, be it spectrum of symptoms and be it feelings and maybe repercussions you have. So with clinical depression, as it were, these are often chronic feelings you have, but on a much more exacerbated or be it augmented basis, among other things. Whereas with having, for example, say, feeling a day of anxiety or low, as it were, is one that maybe is very acute in manner. It comes and goes swiftly. It's one then which you subsequently overcome very briefly, and come the next day you feel quite the contrast back to yourself. Where with depression, again, me having the clinical depression now for, goodness, approximately a decade and a half, 13 years to be precise, since being diagnosed by my GP, is one to which entails a persistent, be it frequent, symptoms which are often far more grievous and far more severe than what their initial feeling counterparts are. So, among other things, there certainly is a distinction where with depression, again, I reiterate, these symptoms very much manifest themselves on a frequent basis, often on a far more severe basis, and one that tends to linger. Whereas with having a certain given feeling on a given day is one very much that occurs on a very temporary basis. And that in itself may even linger on for a little longer than one would anticipate. However, ultimately, from a be it comparative and be it contrast perspective, with clinical depression, again, and I reiterate this, forgive me for keep on reiterating that these feelings, albeit these symptoms which one experiences or one endures, tend to very much linger on a frequent, consistent basis.
When did you first start to see some of these, let's call them symptoms? What sort of age were you?
So, Russ, so to give you clarity and context, so as far as experiencing the first, be it among the first symptoms which were suggestive of it being depression or in that realm, we have to go back, I would say, at least almost 2 decades, so to speak, in that regard, where any, even I would say, minor symptoms of depression were beginning to somewhat be discerning. So, and at that stage, Russ, I can say that in contrast to then being diagnosed several years later with the more clinical, be it chronic depression, these symptoms very much were one that were acute in manner. They would maybe come for a few days and then subsequently again vanish. And then we would maybe go 2, 3, 4 months in absence of any further symptoms. And then from nowhere again, unexpectedly, they would then resurge. So again, that would, I would say, be very much the dawn, or be it the inception of me having these depressive symptoms. Now, again, this is where the transition then from it being mere minor or acute to being more chronic and frequent depression very much assumed. We're talking in late 2007 onwards. And the subsequent year, 2008, my GP diagnosed me with clinical depression, as it were, and then from there it ensued. And
so let me just ask, so because it's very brave of you to come on, and we really hugely appreciate it. And thank you
on the
for
contrary, my pleasure.
all the emails that you and I have been battering backwards and forwards. So I've been looking forward to this, and I knew you'd be an eloquent fellow, because your emails are like, they should be written in copperplate. That's how your emails are. How, first of all, I'm curious, were you working at the time? Were you able to continue working? And then my big question is, try and explain to our listeners, if you can, what it felt like when you'd have one of these episodes. I know that's difficult, but it would be so instructional.
On the contrary, so I'll certainly tender clarity as much as I can in more, albeit summarized form, not to give you a headache, but nonetheless. So Again, at the time, Russ, I wasn't necessarily working as such per se. I was very much working from an academic perspective at the time, pursuing my law degree in Southampton, as it were, the university where I reside in Southampton.
Okay.
However, with regards to, again, these depressive symptoms manifesting themselves, this then certainly became a substantial impediment with regards to my intellectual academic endeavors, as one would appreciate, given it has manifold repercussions. So, in that regard, coming to that point, that particular stage or conjecture in my life, when I did have these, be it bursts or be it these minor, as I call relapses of the depressive symptoms, it was something to which persistently caught me off guard for one thing, but also was one that, if anything, it transcends the bounds of literal expression in terms of the thoughts and feelings. So
Did they
again,
come out the blue? Did they just boom?
Absolutely.
1 minute you're all right, and then suddenly I feel terrible. Was that it?
Absolutely. Completely unanticipated in terms of its occurrence or its manifestation, certainly. To the extent then that it...
Hang on one sec. And a lot of people, I've got to ask you this, because you're a very eloquent fellow. Here's the thing. Had anything... All right, let me wind this back a little bit. A lot of the misconceptions are that people get depressed and clinically depressed because of a reason. And the fact of the matter is, often there is no reason whatsoever. Your life might be, to all intents and purposes, absolutely fine. And it just, boom, it just happens. Had anything triggered this off with you? Or was this just a chemical imbalance, which most of these things, unfortunately, are?
So, Russ, you have certainly very much alluded to, I would say, a highly significant point there regarding the actual background or maybe the potential causation of this. So in my case specifically or subjectively, I would say it's a combination of the aforementioned two. So on the one hand, yes, there is certainly a historical precedent insofar as there being certain, be it calamities in my life personally. So again, for example, whenever I'm a father figure in my life, as it were,
you never had, because you speak quite quickly. You never had a father. You never had a father figure. You say?
No, unfortunately, my father was never a father to me as such. There was a certain be it void as far as having a father figure in my life. Although my mother was always outstanding, she compensated for that void. Suffice to say, however,
we like her. We like her. She sounds nice.
Believe me, she's an outstanding lady in all regards. She's one that's highly admired by everyone that knows of her. But nonetheless, not to dwell on that too much, forgive me. As regarding my father, there was from the onset of me, albeit my conception upon this mortal realm, there was very much a void, be it an absence. He never was a father figure. He never very much assumed any form of fatherly responsibility. It wasn't by any means even second priority for him. And also witnessing what he did in his life, witnessing his own demons. Among other things, he was an alcoholic. He was very much an avid drug, opium user, a gambler, a womanizer, all very much toxic, be it characteristics. Unfortunately, very much were ripened with him. And for me to have witnessed that in my, childhood, teenage years, on the one hand was immensely painful and very much somewhat distraughting, but also, that being said, also was somewhat of an enhancing process where I learned not to follow the same path he did.
So I was going to say, actually, that's really curious, because there seems to be two paths of choice when someone witnesses certain behaviors from their parents. And that is either you learn from it and think, I'm never going to make the same mistake, or they just sort of think, this is normality, this is what I have to do. And it would certainly appear as though that the former applies to you.
Well, again, Phil, yes. And again, I reiterate the fact that having witnessed for quite a few years, as it were, having to endure very much his demons persistently surface in terms of his behavior and his mannerisms. Although, again, in all fairness, this is one thing I admire. He was intellectually, academically, he was a genius. He was very much studying engineering here at the time, prior to me being born at the University of Southampton. And he actually graduated top in his year. And very much could have easily had a very rewarding, promising career as an engineer, world-class leading engineer. But unfortunately, his demons disparaged that prospect. He was very much succumbed by his inner shortcomings.
So that's almost like a double tragedy, isn't it? Because if he was a waster, you think, oh, all right, he's gone to drug. But it somehow, I know I shouldn't say this, but it seems even worse when he's obviously got the intellectual and mental and academic capacity to think this through and not engage in all this stuff, right?
Yes, indeed. And again, to connect this, my mother, again, and I reiterate, she's a truly tremendous, outstanding lady. She had endured two very bad marriages. So the first one being my father's 16 years of his neglect and his incompetence. And the second marriage, which we all obviously endured together, but she suffered more so, again, was her second husband, be it my sister's father, who was more on the case of persecution and be it in a way colonizing us. So either way, that trauma certainly my depression.
Explain that. Well, that's a phrase I don't know. What does that mean, colonizing us?
In other words, in a sense, where we were being persecuted, as it were, it felt as we were being suppressed consistently very much.
All right, I'm with you now.
If that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. I get that now. I'd never heard it used in that context. Okay, got it.
No, but nonetheless, again, so when you take those factors into account, the historical, be it background of these two very, be it traumatic periods, among other things, these certainly then have in due course, rather than for me to have necessarily grieved over it genuinely, I gave myself this pseudo impression of doing so, whereas in reality, I merely put them to one side and tried to omit them.
And were you at home through all of this? These two horrible marriages? Were you in the same house?
Yes, absolutely. I was there. Of course, yes, indeed. I very much witnessed all of that. Although nowhere near the extent what my mother suffered. She was one that suffered in the front line, if you want to call it. But nonetheless, being in the family, inevitably, that also impacted me. Yeah, so again, looking back, reflecting again, and this is when I had counseling. I had 5 years of counseling, which was the more psychodynamic permeated approach, to which we actually delved into very much the historical background of trying to establish or discern certain key root factors or causes of me. And I would say certainly that a discerning aspect of my depression is attributed to very much the past of which I haven't necessarily grieved or fully overcome in myself. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. No, it makes absolute sense. You've explained it beautifully. And I think everybody listening is admiring the fact that you can put difficult stuff and communicate it in a clear way. And we get that. I mean, there's your mum who you love. I'm encapsulating this. There's your mum who you obviously love, and she sounds like a great woman. She's had two horrible marriages, and you are standing there as collateral damage of these pretty toxic relationships.
Yes, although again, Ross, I by no means ever endeavor to use it as a mere pretext to justify why I feel in this way. But nonetheless, again, to tender clarity on context, it nonetheless very much is what they call a vital link to that from the past. So again, with the counseling that I had, which again was the psychodynamical approach of counseling, do forgive me, I got to switch this phone off. I do apologize. Worst timing.
Yeah. It's all right.
That means the pizzas are ready, or Phil's ready to deliver the bread.
But again, as I said, I mean, this, again, just to very quickly summarize, do forgive me, I do apologize.
Forget it, don't worry.
Again, as I said, this, unless for me now, knowing that, unless I'm able to fully, and I say genuinely, confront that past and to fully grieve over it and to accept it fully, rather than to merely omit it, as it were. Only then do I know this will be among the keystones to fully overcoming this condition of mine from a historical perspective. Of course, it's far more complex. We know there are, I say, a multitude of different other factors which are also impact the situation that I'm in. I said quite right, the genetic, be it chemical factors, as it were, which are also, I would say, an integral part. It's those, be it factors combined together, which then render me being what I am now in this current state.
So once you have the wherewithal, the wisdom, and you're of an age where you can look back and say, right, these were some key factors in why I am the way I am. That at least enables you to make a start, doesn't it? It makes a start of understanding yourself and understanding how this has happened. It's not the solution, but it is like a key that at least opens a door for you to then attempt to move forward.
Certainly, again, so having the insight and the knowledge one acquires in the process, that experience certainly then serves as an encouraging precedent for one then to be able to not only sanction that change within themselves, but also then it also then functions somewhat of what we'll call a safeguard, as it were, when at least now you've been through that process. Now, for them impendingly in the future, for there to be a reoccurrence, either one can then potentially evade that, I say optimistically, or at the very least be able to mitigate it to the extent it won't be as severely impactful on your life, albeit it won't necessarily consume you as much as it would have done, say, in prior occasions.
Now, I'm sure people want to know, and if I get too intrusive, tell me to back off. Are you?
No, on the contrary, you
Do you
carry on.
work? Do you work now? I mean, does this impact
No.
so you can or you can't work, or?
Well, again, it wouldn't necessarily, I would say, dramatically impact me working. No, I don't currently work. I'm still very much actually a currently mature law student at University of London, as it were, pursuing my LLB, my Bachelor of Law, which again, at the final stage, the third year, although because of my depression, again, having numerous relapses the last few years, Ross, unfortunately, there's been consistent delays and be it impediments in the process regarding finishing the third year. Although
you're in year 3, right? No,
I'm indeed, yes, year 3 of my.
It's taken like forever, but okay, you're in year 3.
Yes.
You've done 2 years. The LLB, Bachelor of Law, is within sight.
Indeed, yes, it is.
All right.
And again, Russ. Yes, and again, I must say, Russ, also I'm quite blessed to have such a compassionate, empathetic law school, which have been immensely accommodating of my circumstances to date, and it's one that I would never wish to anyway exhaust that goodwill avenue. But nonetheless, again, I reiterate, they have been immensely accommodating of me, as it were, of my ongoing, be it ensuing circumstances, and I have every intention now of finishing this law degree come next year with hopefully a high first-class honours. That's among my be it now endeavours as far as now.
All right. And then what are you going to do
and
then?
From there, conquer the universe, I'll be happy. Just merely conquer this universe we inhabit. Any other parallel dimension or galaxy, I'm not greedy.
You're like Ming the Merciless. You're going to take over the universe.
There are some parallels there,
probably with less flashy outfits.
I would assume so, yes. Although my golden tan, as it were, with a flashing golden tan.
Of course, obviously. So to try and help the listeners and help me as well, but I'm just a conduit to this. Are you on a lot of medication now and still in counselling, or how do you balance this out so you can function?
So at the current stage, Ross, again, as far as treatment, and again, I also must stress here, my GP has been from the onset truly outstanding, profoundly compassionate and accommodating on me, very empathetic.
Good.
Which is, I must say, a major bonus. So again, I really am. There's an eternal debt I have of gratitude I could never repay to my GP, all they've done for me over the years. So as far as the medical aspect of things are concerned, let me say this first of all. Regarding medical treatment, at the earliest stages, upon you knowing you have depression or symptoms manifest themselves, it is crucial for you to seek medical help from your GP. At the earliest stages, they play a vital role, potentially in, at very least, they're setting you that path of recovery, or be it path of redemption of your health. So short to medium term, certainly, as I'm now doing, I'm currently on be it a drug or be it antidepressant called sertraline. And I've also...
Sertraline?
Sertraline, as it's called.
Sertraline, okay.
Yes, indeed. Now, I was on venlafaxine prior to this, and I've been on several other medications, or antidepressants prior. It can be a trial and error situation often with these things until you find one that certainly does have a greater impact or alleviate your symptoms further.
Can I get you to pause there? Because a lot of people don't understand the point that you've made, which is really very key, is that you go to the GP and the GP gives you a prescription, you pop off to your chemist and off you go. Some of these drugs will not agree with you. Some of these drugs will have side effects that the GP has not mentioned. And it is, as you've correctly said, trial and error to make sure you find something that doesn't make you feel sick or make you feel worse or give you the sweats or all sorts of things. So you've made a very important point. So it's not one size fits all.
By no means, Russ. Again, no. This is one to which, again, it does require patience and tolerance and perseverance, suffice to say, insofar as, again, going through, be it what they call the ropes, as it were. So, again, what one benefit one person may not then subsequently benefit the next, as it were. But again, the fact that your GP is there having frequent consultations with you and constantly reviewing the situation will then at least allow them then to be able to compare and contrast, if need be, then change course and then prescribe to a new set. But either way, the fact being that when you are getting that frequent medical support and consultation from your GP, that in itself is crucial. How frequent
was this? To give people an idea of what you should be trying to achieve.
So again, for me, and it's still ongoing now, we're talking at least every 3 to 4 weeks, or maybe once a month.
Wow, that's good. That's good.
Yes. And again, it's something to which I also, adding to this, I also in itself, I was referred to a psychiatrist recently for a couple of consultations. Now, again, when it comes to that point where you've tried certain avenues within the medical remit or the medical framework as with your GP, By then incorporating a psychiatrist, given that they are far more, even better acquainted, or be even obviously have an inevitable expertise in that area, they can then further review your situation, then maybe delve further deep and then go beyond and prescribe to you other, be it drugs or medication, which you cannot necessarily, only they can prescribe given their initial expertise. So again, it's always very much, I would say, prudent for you to maintain all options open, have a very open door policy, and again, incorporate as many different options as you can for the sake of then enhancing your prospects of a much more, be it consistent recovery in that framework, as it were.
The same way that finding the right drug that balances with whatever chemicals are going on inside your mind and your body is incredibly important, because finding the wrong drug, it doesn't help. Okay, so it does take time. You could be lucky first time out. You might not be lucky first time out. Were you pleased, and did you have a rapport with the psychiatrist that you were sent to?
Yes, again, the psychiatrist actually, and again, by no means any way to shape or form of my ego to any way, be it unduly romanticize or glorify myself. So I had a couple of consultations, as it were, of actually, again, of my own volition. So again, we go there, and for about an hour, there was me talking persistently, even both giving him a diagnosis and a prognosis of my condition, doing his job basically. He himself was just, in simple terms, blown away by the fact that I was here in such a, as he said himself, in such a manner, talking there, as it were, with all that knowledge, and also very much in such a eloquent manner, as he told me, look, this is for me is rare. For somebody like you to come to me is seldom encountered. You've given me eye contact persistently, for one thing, which is something which is not very much common. Furthermore, the fact that you've been able to, in such an eloquent manner, talk to me for this duration of time, he said, I can see you're somebody who has, obviously, you're intellectual, you have great potential. However, it's for you to overcome this, this imminent boundary, as it were, this obstacle which has been putting you back for so long. But upon doing so, it was actually very optimistic, Russ, I must say. I was very surprised to have such an optimistic, such an encouraging psychiatrist conveying these words to me. It was somewhat unanticipated, or be it unconventional even, for me to have that kind of scenario. But again, it certainly was only like a one-off, be a couple of consultations, nothing prolonged or be it extensive. And he was, Did you want
it to be a series of, because a lot of people see psychiatrists, it can go on for years, let alone months. So you had 2 or 3. Did it help?
Again, it was somewhat reassuring in the fact that what he was conveying to me, the rhetoric coming from the psychiatrist, was one that certainly was uplifting and be it somewhat reassuring. Although, like anybody, you wanted necessarily for it to be prolonged, of course. He wanted to be as swift as possible or to be minimized. But that being said, the fact that having this psychiatrist consultation was certainly a conduit for us to be able to explore maybe further or delve deeper into certain aspects of this condition, for them maybe to come to different maybe conclusion or different maybe diagnosis. But nonetheless, the fact that this was very much quite brief in manner and in be it in scope was somewhat reassuring, to say the least.
When you're in the middle of one of your episodes, so you can't go to the University of London and you can't finish off your law degree, are you able to function? Can you function, do normal stuff, or do you stay under the duvet, or what's the deal?
So again, to keep this summarized and not to give you, gentlemen, a headache as much as possible. Yes, on the one hand,
it's not us. It's not us. You've got to understand that you've been very brave. Sorry, Phil, go on.
I was going to say this is much more about just helping others. Frankly, if you've got to say it how it is, so that people watching this can understand it might not just be them.
Certainly, of course. Thank you, Phil. So again, allow me then to tend to you.
Might I say, Mahyar, if you're prepared to do that? Sorry, obviously.
Yes, of course, certainly. And again, and I reiterate, I really am grateful you allow me to come onto your show and be able to embrace this. So allow me to.
It's our pleasure.
So again, Ross, so allow me. So here we go. So yes, on the one hand, academically, given that when I have these, and these have been numerous in scope the last several years, quite frequent in occurrence, these relapses have a tendency of certainly, in my case, impacting certain key facets of my life, among them being intellectual, academically. So in that regard, believe me, I tend to procrastinate as a repercussion, persistently procrastinate. In other words, deviate from doing my essays, as it were, even though I have a profound passion for the subject. despite that, given that I'm now in this kind of mindset subsequently upon having this relapse manifest itself, it then somewhat deviates me from actually pursuing it constantly. And this is where then that kind of delay, that kind of impediment truly serves. However, as far as then normal, be it the basic daily routine chores are concerned, there are many days, gentlemen, that I wake up on a purely reluctant basis and still pursue the day. I go out, as it were, be it whatever I have to do shopping, if I have to do whatever cleaning, or be it other affiliated issues, or just go out for a walk.
How does that reluctance manifest itself? As in, like, do you just lie there and think to yourself, I can't be bothered for this? Does it come across in a physical way that you really have to push yourself? When you say reluctance, how does it happen?
I would say the manifestations, Phil, are manifold. So again, mentally, I wake up, as it were, on the one hand, there's me literally opening my eyes, the dawn of a new day, great. But then I realize, I feel this way, and what do I have to look forward to? Nothing. And given the current climate, as we know, the current climate of this ongoing lockdown, there's been inevitable greater, be it social repercussions, which have had a greater impact on me, being that I'm somewhat constrained in my activity, although I still do as much as I can, like a catalyst within that kind of, be it framework. But again, physically, Phil, again, also the fact that even though there is energy, I'm being re-energized after resting, sleeping, nonetheless, there's also that imminent sense of, be it physical exhaustion, fatigue, despite doing barely anything. And it's just a case of me then pushing myself and persevering as much as possible to do, at the very least, accomplish the basic daily chores. Now, again, I'll give you an example from a health perspective. Up until recently, I was obese. Because of my relapses, I had a tendency of comfort binge eating every night. The most toxic regime you can conceive, the most hazardous foods in abundance. Now, I did email, obviously, again, regarding this. I don't know if he informed you of my weight loss. So given that, of my depression, as I mentioned, I had a tendency of just to seek some kind of salvation, be it just to emancipate myself from that status quo for very briefly. I would indulge in binge comfort eating. Other people could be smoking, could be drugs, drinks, alcohol. It was a form of addiction that in due course became a vicious cycle. So again, knowing that, I would then subsequently the next day wake up, accumulating more weight physically, gaining weight, but also feeling mentally 10 times worse. But then knowing that this was a vicious cycle that would repeat itself, I subconsciously resumed doing this. More recently, and given the current climate, I felt compelled to sanction a U-turn. Why? Because bearing in mind that, I was obese, I weighed at my peak 123 kilograms in weight, which is 19.5 stone. Obese.
No way.
Even though I'm 6'3" for my height, it didn't necessarily visually manifest itself.
You were 19.5 stone.
Indeed so, at the peak, about 3.5 months ago. Furthermore, gentlemen, bearing in mind that my mother's side of the family remotely, type 2 diabetes has quite an enduring legacy. And these are obviously they very much have a connection with each other, as we know. So when you bear in mind those two crucial factors, I was at a very high risk category.
Yeah.
So I then, upon realizing this, and we know this current virus has a tendency of severely impacting those that have underlying conditions, like many things, among them being obesity, type 2 diabetes, or cardiovascular related issues. This then certainly compelled me to sanction a U-turn. I told myself, look, if I either carry on resuming this path of be it decline and decline further beyond redemption, or I can, common sense dictating and will, sanction a U-turn, redeem my physical well-being, and then reduce anything happening in the future, the prospects of.
So what do you weigh now? So what
I now weigh 84. I now weigh 84 kilograms, which is a reduction of which is about just over 13 stone.
So I've lost 6 stone. Hang on. So you did this in 3 months?
In 3.5 months, I've lost 6 stone, yes.
How?
Approximately.
What the hell did you do?
Okay, so the keystone being a combination of just normal healthy eating, abandon the sugary fatty foods, just focus on normal healthy eating in moderation, common sense, and that combined with being a brisk walker, rigorous brisk walking, about 3-4 hours. Yeah, I mean, for example, I did 6 hours of walking on Wednesday, 6 hours of steep hill walking. And in Southampton, which for me is a mecca, there are an abundance of steep uphill roads to walk on. And that to me, the outdoor...
Right. Yeah, I used to go there. Yeah, there are.
Yes. And the outdoors...
Do you understand? I've got to stop you. Do you understand that there's people all over the world listening to you now going, what the hell? I can't shift a couple of pounds. This guy has just shifted 6 stone in 3.5 months.
Absolutely. Again, now, actually...
That is phenomenal.
Well, again, thank you. I mean, it was, again, and I say that long overdue from a purely health perspective, Ross and Phil. Again, I also, after 15 years, I had a diabetes blood test at the clinic recently, and there was me in suspicion, at the very least, given that toxic regime, at the very least, maybe being pre-diabetic, if not diabetic itself. Although there were no common symptoms today anyway manifesting themselves, touch wood, but you can be asymptomatic like many conditions. So anyway, and I had the blood test results back in my GP discussing it there. Everything was perfectly normal, fine, not even pre-diabetic. So how I've evaded any complications, I really am lucky in that regard. For me, it's what they call a new lease of life.
I'm coming away from clinical depression because you've hit a bit of a rich vein here. What do you eat on a daily basis? Because I know there's like hundreds and hundreds of people going, "What's his secret? We've got to know." Right? What do you eat? Tell us your daily diet.
Can I give you like a before and after, just to give you context and clarity? What
Sure. Go ahead.
So the ancient regime, as I call it, which was the toxic hazard regime, was very much okay. After a main meal in the evening, Ross, and my mother being outstanding cook or whatever, I would then indulge. This is what they call the midnight snacking. A bag of 6 jam donuts, a pack of four whatever Mars bars, any confectionery.
All
a
together.
bottle of milkshake.
What? Hang on.
Together in the span for the next 2 hours.
Stop.
Wow. Sorry, hang on a second. Are you implying you ate all of that in one hit?
We're getting nowhere. Yeah, absolutely. So again, a bag of jam donuts.
You've had breakfast. Let me walk you through this because I'm sitting here and my jaw is somewhere around my knees at the moment. So you have your breakfast. God knows what that is. Half a cow, half a pig or something, and then you go and have lunch, which God knows. Then your mum's a great cook. She makes you a lovely dinner. Tell us your midnight snack again.
Okay, so the midnight, although admittedly I always often evaded having breakfast, which in itself was a wrong thing to do, but nonetheless. So regarding the midnight snacking, I'll go through the list.
Okay.
A bag of 6 jam donuts.
Jesus.
A pack of sweets, wine gums, whatever, you name it, fruit pastels. This is all together in the next 2 hours before I go to sleep, in 2 hours before I go to bed.
Right.
Again, 4 pack of Mars bars or Snickers or whatever, chocolate bars.
4.
Yes, 4. a bag of share size crisps, 3 or 4 sandwiches, or rolls. We're talking whatever, chicken and bacon, full English breakfast sandwiches, and to wash it all down, a bottle of milkshake. This is on a nightly basis.
Go wrong?
Sorry?
What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing. If anything, no calories whatsoever. Nothing.
You are the Joe Wicks of diets. So yeah, not eating that, your weight's going to come shooting down.
And my mother, again, very quickly, my mother, being such an outstanding mother, she was replete with anxiety and concern for my well-being. Having witnessing her son daily in that manner deteriorate and be of that stature, she was just completely with grief and worry and anxiety. Although now losing this weight, that's completely changed. She's now of peace of mind. She told me, look, you've redeemed it. Be very proud. You've redeemed your health fully. You evade any complications. I now know you're safe. You're in a safe remit. You very much are now stable. But I mean, to give you now clarity and context on what I eat now. So what I eat now for breakfast, I have a banana, maybe a handful of maybe some natural nuts, cashews, almonds there, a glass of maybe milk or a fruit item. Again, for lunch, similar thing, as it were. And then for dinner, usually, again, my mother being of Persian lineage, we have such a rich cuisine. Again, it's very healthily cooked as well. Either that, which is maybe rice and a stew, or be it other kind of types. Either that or a nice extensive salad with maybe a piece of salmon or chicken on top, as it were, to garnish. And again, and beyond that, just
would 7:30 tonight be convenient?
Yes, of course. Feel free.
Right.
You're more than welcome anytime.
Very good. Phil's busy because he's cooked bread, but I don't have big plans.
Russ, you're more than welcome anytime. Come down here, Slampton, venture down. You're more than welcome anytime.
What was, because I'm assuming that you've obviously got a very clear and very enunciated British accent, but you say that you've got Persian heritage.
Yes.
How aware are you of, say, the difference between attitudes towards depression and other such conditions of mental health in this country compared to say where your family stems from? Would you say that there are stark differences?
No, on the contrary. I think there are so many parallels because look, actually Persian culture has such a tremendously rich, preeminent culture historically. And actually, the very issue of mental health, as it were, as a science, actually was pioneered by old Persian scholars from antiquity to medieval periods. So again, given that Persian culture has a very humane, humanistic element to it, therefore, again, for us, we have a very open, be it policy, similar to British culture. Again, we tend to very much have a very liberal, open, be it somewhat secular approach in that regard to mental health. So again, it's not by any means off record or any way somewhat overlooked. No, of course, given currently there are many families, like anywhere, that have certain, be it stigmas to which permeate their mindset regarding how they perceive mental health and depression. But I mean, for example, again, my mother, who's very much, again, also very, very, has a very liberal approach and also one that's very empathetic. She has been, because she herself has also had depression for many years. She can also empathize what I'm going through to a degree. But she has been also outstanding and very, obviously, morally supportive of me as much as possible. She also has been able to be very accommodating in my ongoing circumstances, given her sense of patience, her tolerance of my circumstances. It really is a blessing to have such a mother who really is. And she is my closest friend, I must say, in many regards, my mother. So on that premise, to have that friend who is, again, able to offer me a degree of compassion, empathy, as it were. And again, the key word here is empathy, not sympathy, gentlemen, empathy. Anyone with depression, what they're seeking is empathy. Let's just be very clear here. Sympathy is not what we're seeking by any means. Empathy is what we're seeking.
Help, does it? Sympathy
no,
doesn't,
by no means.
Sympathy doesn't help at all. It's
because
nice,
look, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example, Russ and Phil, again. So look, somebody has a physical injury, say a broken arm or a broken leg. One can readily visually sympathize. It's there. It's very much a natural occurrence. Whereas somebody with, say, a mental illness that's all internal in there, albeit depression, they cannot begin to comprehend what you're going through. And when someone tells you, oh, snap out of it or pick yourself up, that is the instant reaction. Disheartening, however, in due course, you come to realize that it's something to which they naturally, because why? Because they lack the sheer, unless you have insight or experience of how depression works or any mental health, you cannot begin to then comprehend or offer that kind of compassion or empathy to other people. So when then someone tells me, oh, just snap out of it, Mahyar, or pick yourself up, oh, you'll be fine, I've come to accept that because the vast majority of people are not in that position to be able to begin to comprehend what you're going through. And in absence of that insight or experience, you cannot then realistically anticipate any form of, be it compassion or empathy or any sense of, be it accommodation.
We use the example on men's radio, Phil and I. It's like someone with a broken leg, and you say, hey, run around the garden, you'll feel better. Well, you can't. Obviously, you got a broken leg, for God's sake. You're on crutches. So you aren't able to run around the garden. But it's like that with mental health. And so, oh, cheer up. Is there anything worse? You know, if you're a bit blue. If you're a bit blue, that's quite different. But if you're seriously depressed, using depression in its proper medical term, you can't just say, hey, cheer up. It doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't do. By no means. And again, Russ, I can say this, that look now, the bigger picture from a more, be it as opposed to individual, more collective, be it perspective. We are now have been for quite a few years, with a grievous pandemic in mental health, which is now being further exacerbated by the current climate, as we know. And I can assure you, and I say this again with a heavy heart, that come the other side of this pandemic, when things do really ease down, as it were, we're going to witness a severe pandemic that will easily far surpass or supersede anything a viral pandemic could ever inflict as far as devastation and the actual repercussions are concerned. And this is now for the government to wake up and to now have greater mechanisms in place to be able to potentially accommodate that. Although I can assure even now, given that the medical profession have somewhat overlooked this, because of the fact that with medical and mental health, it requires far greater degree of patience, tolerance, as it were, endurance, given the sheer complexities of mental health.
It requires money.
Absolutely.
It requires money. It requires funding. And, you know, I don't know how often you watch the show, if at all, but Phil and I have been saying since day one that when this is all, everyone's through the other side of this, should we be so lucky and live that long, but when we're the other side of it, the mental health repercussions of this are enormous. And they talk about spikes. I have no doubt that even the most stoic and strongest of person has been suffering and struggling where they've never encountered that before. So people are a little more fragile, put it that way, or have had difficulties in the past. I think it's going to rise, and that's why Phil and I and the rest of the team at Men's Radio and Women's Radio are so determined to be here and try and offer whatever help we can and be there as a resource, and have people like yourself telling your amazing stories in such a erudite and eloquent way. You know, it's important.
Let me say this, Ross and Phil, again, and I thank you both again. The fact that, look, for you to be able to have this kind of platform, this conduit in this given this critical time that we're confronted with, I really bless you both as well. My hat's off to you for having this initiative. We need more of this. We need to have this spread like wildfire, literally disperse itself. This will be certainly among the key factors here. The fact that for people to be able to, because look, for us to witness any substantial change, as it were, as far as mental health perceptions are concerned, and to be able to actually tackle this, we require from the ground level a fundamental cultural shift. Otherwise, in absence of that, as it were, in terms of our perceptions, as it were, of mental health and society in general, in absence of such an occurrence, the prospects then of having any real, be it long-lasting or genuine change, unfortunately, are certainly diminished.
What would you like? Hang on. What would you like that? What would you like that shift? What form would that shift take?
Again, Russ, there is by no means, given the sheer complexities attached to this, there are, I think, no, be it clear-cut or be it binary methods. It'll be certainly one that incorporates a plurality of different, be it schools of thought and be it methods and be it avenues. However, among other things, again, we need to, from a ground level, from an educational, cultural perspective, try to alter that stigma that has prevailed for too long, that deeply ingrained, be it lingering stigma that very much has permeated our thought, our mindsets. And unless we address that first and foremost from a purely existential perspective, we cannot then move forward any further. We cannot then conceive the idea of progressing any further down the line. So I believe, again, for that to occur or for that to anyway manifest itself would require certainly, again, a cultural, be it approach, be it a manifestation of people, education, as it were, our terms, our interactionisms, again, a greater degree of empathy and compassion in society. And here's a funny thing though, now many people are, because look, this current pandemic, many would argue quite rightly, serves a conduit for a time of major reflection, both individually and collectively as a society. And among those things, again, is they want to see happening, albeit subsequently, is a far more compassionate, a more benevolent, and a more empathetic society generally. And that would, among other things,
it would be nice. It would be nice. I couldn't agree with you more. I know Phil feels the same completely because we've discussed this a lot. My fear is because the economy has been absolutely massacred by this, that people will be so concerned of just having food on the table, paying the rent, paying the mortgage, having a roof over their head, having some form of employment. I think people will be so worried about this that the idea of being kind, we're all in this together, kind of gets heavily diluted because people are just living hand to mouth.
Yes, and again, Ross, this is where then I suppose the other school of thought then has a tendency of then having a degree of prominence where that despite that kind of optimistic outlook regarding potential substantial change impending, to counter that then many would argue, well, human nature is such as so deeply embedded, the fact that it will never really change despite such an unprecedented occurrence or a rare occurrence in our lifetimes. And the fact that people are innately concerned regarding their security, their own welfare, their own sense of be it their own comfort, perhaps, to the extent where they don't necessarily then have that regard for the more collective, be it reach of things, or be it the actual, from a more general, be it greater good, as it were. The fact they are, again, human instinct will dictate, they are immediately concerned for their having food on their table, a sense of be it security, economically, financially, socially, and so forth there. And again, one can empathize that this is very much a natural human instinct that we have. Again, we need to have that relative degree of stability in our life. In absence of that, then what good is there, as it were? But at the same time, though, Russ, also the fact that this isolationism that's inevitably attached with this current lockdown, the fact that as human beings, we are prone to want to interact socially, to be able to have that kind of be it social conditioning where we're able to, again, and also for people with depression or mental health, often they do seek that social interactionism.
Yeah, of
not
course.
being isolated or not being in a way confined to the four walls or a corner.
I know.
And in absence of that, it certainly does exacerbate the situation further.
Right. Here's a question. Here's a question to you from one of our. You're getting a big reaction, by the way. But one of our listeners called Chrissy Rickards. Chrissy, who listens and watches the show a lot. Phil, do you want to read this out? Chrissy's comment
about
her daughter.
That her daughter Let's have a look and see. Partly because the lockdown is in a really bad way, but won't get help. How can you get her to? See, I think that's a really interesting point, is because there must be nothing worse than actually standing on the outside watching someone clearly in a bad way.
Oh, yeah.
And then actually having the bravery, because I think it is an element of bravery, to go up to them and say, look, I think you need to get some help. I'm prepared to do that with you. But for them to reject it, it must be very hard to watch that, knowing that someone does need help.
So regarding the question there, certainly one that's very relevant and one that is often very common, I must say, in this kind of scenario or in the greater framework of things. Again, for me to be able to, again, relate to this. So going back at the earlier stage, at the onset of my depression as it was developing, like anybody, especially being a man, I suppose there's a certain stigma regard men should be very much perceived as being strong and very much strong-willed, albeit somewhat able to easily overcome these things compared to their female counterparts. Utter rubbish, nonsense. This transcends gender, I can assure you. This is something that's universal in stature. So regarding this, in my case, for a good while, I very much felt inclined to keep it suppressed inside me, to contain it. However, knowing that ultimately it was futile. Why? Because by doing so, it merely exacerbated it tenfold. It would then further consume me. That's when then I swallowed my pride, as it were, and then began to open up and then to consult relevant avenues, be it my GP or other people. In her case, as it were, given that her daughter, if I'm right to recall, is experiencing this, has this issue, although it's finding it difficult to seek relevant help, I would say this. Am I right to recall it's her daughter, just to confirm?
Yeah, it's her daughter.
So
yeah,
again,
it's his
so regarding her daughter, I can fully empathize the situation she's in that position. It is profoundly difficult, believe me. On the one hand, you have a fusion of emotions and be it feelings that are persistently looming inside you. On the one hand, you want to convey that to somebody. You want to be able to expose that, to unleash that. However, that being said, is then find the right person, somebody that can, again, offer you that degree of compassion, that empathy, just a mere listening ear to reflect, not in any way patronize you or lecture you, because I can assure you, the last thing you're seeking in this circumstance is to be patronized, to be lectured. That will merely exacerbate how you feel. So on that premise, I would say if she can, any way she can, accommodate her daughter, approach her on a purely benign basis, just normal conversation, try to incorporate maybe how she feels, try to maybe elaborate or expand upon her that particular day or her moods in general, and then gradually go further deeper. And in the process also then gradually, upon doing so, then begin to consult other avenues, be it medical help or other friends who may have more experience or more insight regarding this situation or of their own experiences, and then try to establish a network here if you can.
Now, Phil's point is a very good one, as per usual. Chrissy's probably thinking, I'm second guessing here, Chrissy, so bear with me, all right? Chrissy's probably thinking, if I approach this subject and my daughter tells me to get lost, I'm a bit up the you-know-what creek here. You see what can happen? You can't force somebody to do this.
No.
Short of having somebody sectioned, which is not what Chrissy is suggesting.
No.
Suggesting help. That's a million miles away. But it's very difficult when you can't force someone to. You can only suggest or say, "I'll come with you," or "I'll take you to the door," or give it a shot, see how it works. But outside of that, not much you can do with one adult to another, is it?
No, you're right, Russ. Again, absolutely. So again, you cannot be imposing or have that kind of paternalistic approach. Quite the contrary. No. Again, you can certainly suggest or be it advise or try to, at the very least, make it known that you are there available to them as an avenue if they ever need you, should the occasions arise, as it were. Otherwise, beyond that, as long as you know you've then made a conscious effort to morally be as supportive or as accommodating as you can, then that's all you can do. Beyond that, then it's of their own individual discretion, albeit their own prerogative, then to want to pursue that. But if you can see them...
Bottom line is that let the person know that you're there. Let them know that you care, that you know that you're on their side, and they can reach out to you anytime. Would that
absolutely, yes, indeed. As long as I think, Ross, that very much is very much a perfect summation of what it should be. Yes, the fact that you are there, you're available, hypothetically or prospectively, as of when need be, as an avenue for them to turn to if they need to seek some form of salvation or some kind of, be it comfort or to alleviate how they feel. And again, somebody who's there to just offer them a listening ear, not any way to patronize or lecture, as I reiterate, just to merely be there to give them that degree of empathy and that compassion for their sufferings. Anything beyond that, again, you can only do so much as individuals. As long as you can do within your remit, do all you can to accommodate that as much as possible, then I can assure you that's more than enough. Anything beyond that, then it's for them, not their own volition.
I want you to make me a promise.
Certainly.
Right? I want you to make me a promise. What's that?
Fire away.
I said you've been warned, right?
Yeah, my promise is this. What I want. One, you have to finish your law degree and get an LLB.
Certainly.
Two, you have got to join a chambers and become a barrister. You've got to.
Well, again, I suppose, again, ultimately, okay, so Russ, certainly, that certainly will be among the key, I suppose, the future career endeavors. Though fundamentally, in my case, I don't want to merely practice law. I want to create law. And who creates laws? The Law Commission and politicians do.
Okay.
I know many would argue that politics and law are a toxic combination. However, they're intertwined.
I'm just thinking, because I grew up on watching like Perry Mason and Rumpole of the Bailey, and I'm just thinking like you are right in. It would be great because I was a lawyer myself years and years and years ago, a million years ago, and
so
it was
the LSC. I want you at LSC, if I recall, one of our sister institutions, LSC.
You've been stalking me, yeah. It was the LSC, and then the College of Law, and then the West End firm. But it was all horrible, and I hated every second of it. Anyway, I was rubbish. I was absolute rubbish. I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Don't be silly. Don't be silly.
Maya, that's Russ encouraging you. That
no.
I
was no.
Highly encouraging precedent.
I was rubbish at it. This guy, come on, you've listened to him now for 45 minutes. He's like the most eloquent bloke on the planet. You imagine him in court.
Well, thank you again. Well, look,
come on, you know it. You know
as long as
it.
you're willing to have me on back on your show, as long as you're willing to have me back on your show on future occasions. To keep you updated.
I'll tell you this now, Glassy Amanda.
If you don't come back, right?
Yeah, we'll come down to Southampton and just slap you.
And engage
that's our caring side. Feast. That's our caring side. Actually, no.
And indulge in a Persian feast in the process.
Fabulous.
Hang on a minute. Hang on. Right. So suddenly Phil seems to be available tonight. Oddly enough, because your mum's cooking sounds just. It's great. All comes down to food eventually. Here we go. We've got some questions. Here's some points here before you go, because I want to bounce these things off you. And yeah, we do want you back, by the way. Glassy Amanda, and this relates to Chrissy Richards. Does Chrissy Richards' daughter have significant reasons for not accessing help? If so, could a mutual friend or relative outside of the immediate family talk to her and break down any anxieties she may have about seeking help? Do you think that's a good point?
It certainly is a point that bears merit, although again I would say don't by any means discard one or the other. If you can, combine the two, incorporate them all as much as possible. They all very much serve a particular purpose, and they all have their own innate benefits and their own potential alleviating factors. So on the one hand, yes, have that kind of be it a greater third party beyond your immediate family scope, as it were, to be able to maybe offer you that avenue of, again, that kind of avenue where you can consult them to talk to, or be it to be able to seek advice, or be it some kind of comfort or salvation, is certainly very important. Although, again, need I stress, this is only one aspect of things. You must be able then to maybe incorporate that with, say, concurrently with the medical support, the help, and then other factors combined. Don't by any means constrain yourself or keep yourself confined to one avenue. If you can I stress this consistently, maintain an open door policy. Obviously, be very transparent as you can within that remit. I know it's difficult to do so. It takes time, but nonetheless, gradually incorporate more. Keep all avenues open, or as many avenues as you can available to you, because you may find that, okay, at any given time, one avenue may work better than the other avenue. And by having that avenue available to you, among others, then at least you know there are options available to you. You're not by any means constrained to one option only.
Now, here's a sad little message. It's just a sad message. It's from Françoise Pascal, the lovely actress. Right. My elder brother. This is so horrible.
Oh, wow.
Read it out, Phil. Go on.
My elder brother was a very depressed person, and he had refused to accept any kind of help. The result is that he died alone, sad, and I miss him. Francois, blimey, that's very sad. Sorry. Goodness.
Very, very traumatic. I'm sad to hear. Again, look, regarding, again, I know you've also covered other people on the verge of taking their lives, albeit that kind of extreme feeling.
Yeah.
Just to tell you clarity here, I think my depression has been more moderate, as it were, in scope and nature, as opposed to being severe. And I've had many people I've encountered that severe depression where they have resorted to doing quite extreme, be it things and repercussion, understandably. In my case, up until I would say 2017, I had an injury where I literally bruised my ribs, and then had to, as means of alleviating the pain, take some painkillers in the process. On one evening, we're talking late at night, prior to going to bed, there was me literally on the verge of taking a dose just to gradually alleviate the pain and to drift to bed, as it were. Although having very bad sleeping patterns, I sleep very bad anyway, having done because of my depression.
Yep.
I was then, given that I felt so low and so just overwhelmed with my depression, as it were, and something I would say unprecedented in my history of depression. There was me contemplating taking an overdose, as it were. Me thinking I'm better off dead. I just should be non-existent. I just feel better off just vanishing from this mortal realm. Although it never happened, it was confined to mere thoughts. But nonetheless, the fact that it pondered my mind.
How long did the thoughts last? How long were you going through this?
They were a few days, although they did reoccur on a couple of occasions thereafter. I would say in the last year and a half after that, until last year, they were there.
Here's
on
the
the
thing.
occasion.
Let me just
Wow.
let me just put this to you. All right. You obviously adore your mum. She's been to hell and back with 2 horrible marriages, and she sounds great. You clearly have a wonderful, loving, close relationship, which has helped, I would suggest, helped you both. Certainly helped you, and I would suggest likewise you've helped her, right? When you're going through these dreadful negative thoughts, and I think many people have them, but it's a question of controlling it. When you're going through this, does it occur to you, well, how will my mum be?
Yes, it does. So inevitably there is that thought of, well, by me even contemplating such thought, let alone actually sanctioning them, as it were.
Yeah.
Again, how would that then impact those that are closest to me? Those that, again, my mother being the immediate sense. And again, upon telling her this, as it were, informing of that.
You shared it with her?
Yes, of course.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And her response on the one hand was one that she was, on the one hand, somewhat distraught and inevitably upset to realize this. However, concurrently also, again, relieved to know that it was purely that was confined to thoughts and nothing beyond that. There was no sense of transition from words to deeds. It was really one that was purely thought in nature. Although the fact that I had these thoughts, even as it were, looming, pondering my mind, as it were, in itself was still somewhat distressing and inevitably upsetting for her.
Hi, there are going to be people who are watching this right now who, despite us speaking to you for nearly an hour, are going to say they've still not had enough, and quite right. So, with that in mind, will you be prepared to come back and to speak to us again on the show? Because we would love to have you back.
I would love to come back anytime. You tell me when I'll be there, rest assured. Without the hesitation, avidly waiting with great anticipation and desire.
Excellent. Well, I was hoping that's what you would say. I anticipated that's what you said as well. I was very presumptuous of me, but I'd hope you would. And just finally, if anyone perhaps, I don't know, is there a way people maybe can share their thoughts with you if they want to? Have you got any websites or anything like that people can go to or anything like that? Don't worry if not.
Well, again,
on messages.
I'm in the process of forging my own blog. I want to, given that I have passion for diverse subjects, as it were. I'm going to forge a blog on my own soon. I have a temporary blog on Facebook called the Diversely Passionate Blogger.
Well, there you go.
Again, otherwise, I do have my own personal Facebook page. That's more a personal account that I have. But nonetheless, as I said, again, I will in due course have greater, be it social media channels for greater interactionism, and I will certainly keep you informed of that. And upon doing so, you can then for me. But again, otherwise, again, yes, do find me on, as I said, the Diversely Passionate Blogger on Facebook as a temporary page. But nonetheless, you can certainly message me there or contact me if you want to regarding this matter. Once again, it's called the Diversely Passionate Blogger. You see a photo of me when I was younger, my glory days, having full hair as well, as it were, when I was young and innocent. So,
I want to say something to you. I know time is... Don't start on the hair thing. With the hair and the bread, that's the next 3 hours done. Right. Here's the thing, and I want to say this to you. All right. I made some comments earlier about, I was talking to Phil, and saying that I was shocked at their appearance. And no matter what you're going through, and I'm sure all our listeners feel like this, and people seeing you now, you look immaculate. You've lost 6 stone in 3 months. How? That is such positive signs. You haven't just gone and let everything just go to seed. So I would suggest, and I'm not a doctor, just being a guy, you showed a hell of a lot of strength. Hell of a lot of strength.
Thank you.
And you must never forget that.
Much obliged. Thank you for the kind words, Ross. Thank you.
What the heck? No, listen, thank you for joining us. You've been inspirational.
Thank you, gentlemen, having me on.
Fascinating, really. And we'll get you back.
I look forward to it, gentlemen. Thank you for having me on, for your shows at work, for giving me this platform to discuss these matters, and I look forward to our future occurrences. And
go down to the kitchen and help your mum with dinner, because I
shall do.
That's what I would do.
I'll see you this evening. I look forward to seeing you this evening for the meal.
What I was going to say, out of wild curiosity, what is? Does your mother know how to make it? I can never remember the name of this. I know it's got.
Holla. Go on. I dare you. I dare you.
Pheasant or something like that.
Sorry, pheasant June. Yes, pheasant June. This is the walnut and pomegranate molasses based dish with meatballs and chicken. Of course, she makes it perfectly.
I like the vegetarian version of it, which is obviously without the meatballs. But even so,
yes, again, it's
meatballs for me.
Yes, she does do.
Oh, fabulous! Right there, telling
meatballs, please.
Phil, I'll keep you informed of the next time she makes it on the occasion. I'll keep you informed for you then to venture down here and to indulge.
Thanks very much, mate. All the best.
We'll keep in touch, gentlemen. We'll keep in touch, certainly.
All right, fella.
Farewell.
God bless. Take care. Wow, is he terrific? Now you're getting an idea of the emails I got, and I'm thinking, is he for real? But what a guy. Isn't he great? I love him. Love this guy. I love him just for the meatballs.
Really worried, actually. I think in 1 hour.
Yeah. I've never seen you so quiet.
No, I think in 1 hour of Mahyar, actually, I've got a confession as to what that is. I'll tell you in a moment. But as part from anything, I was sort of thinking.
Your mother put Valium in the holler.
Yeah, maybe. In 1 hour of Mahyar, actually, sort of being online and speaking to us, I feel like we've achieved more in that 1 hour than we've done in a couple of weeks of shows. That was an absolute font of information, a real insight, and wow, brilliant.
Really good. You never know, because I can't remember. I don't know if he wrote to me, or I can't remember how this came about.
Well, I remember.
I don't remember how this started.
I know exactly how it came about, because I got a phone call on the men's radio station studio number.
Yes, you got a phone call.
Which, for the record, 0203 290 4411. You could
0203 290 4411.
Yes, that
Phil
one.
hates that. Phil hates that's why I do it.
Anyway. But yeah, well, isn't that nice? If I knew that you hated something, would I deliberately do it?
Yes, of course. Of course you would. Endlessly.
Obviously.
You've done it for years.
Is it what?
It's your trademark.
It's what, just breathing annoys you? But anyway.
Well, of course it does. Everything annoys me.
But even so, I mean, I remember receiving this phone call from a very enthusiastic sort of chap who explained who he was and how he believes that he's got something to add to men's radio. And if I'm honest, I thought, yeah, they all say that, but my goodness me.
It was great, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
It was terrific. Some you win, some you lose. We won that one. Glassy Amanda, who's a professional in this department, goes, coming soon. New show, Holler and Hair by Phil. I think that should be your shop. I think you open up a shop in like Stanmore, Edgware, Holler and Hair. You've got to cut. This is fantastic. You fix people's hair and sell them holler. Come on.
I foresee
that isn't a winning combo. I don't know what is.
Yeah, but I do foresee a little bit of a problem, though, where you do end up with a situation where you have hair in the holler.
Look, no, come on. You put like a glass wall. You put some perspex up. It's not. It's solvable. You're a clever man. You went to 7 schools.
Putting perspex up these days. Anyway, look, we must move on. You'll be delighted to hear that the show does continue. Our next guest is waiting in the wings.
I'm exhausted. I've got to have a lie down. You can run it. I'm going.
I'm warning you now. This next hour is going to be pure glamour, and it is not on my part, it's not on your part, but it's most definitely on our not next one guest but 2 guests, because at 1:30 we'll be speaking to the lovely Chantal Rickards. But before then, welcome to the digital studio, the Well, she is the one and only. I mean, who has not heard of Sue Moxley? She joins the screen at
I don't know who she is. Who is she?
Hello, hi Phil, hi.
How on earth are you?
Hi, Sue.
Well, I've been flapping trying to get this streaming thing up on the computer, and it works perfectly well on my phone.
Well, you've done
So-
one. So
You've done good.
I
Yeah,
tell you
Phil,
what,
give Sue a capital M.
Sorry.
Give her a capital M. It's
I know,
Sue
I'm sorry,
Moxley.
I
It's like
did that.
uppercase. You got to once a copywriter, always a copywriter. You can't.
you see, I
You
get
can't.
blamed for everything. It's unreal.
There we go.
I ask, I know this is going to be very boring to anyone listening to this, but would you be so kind as to turn your phone or your device 90 degrees just so we can see you in a landscape capacity?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because in that way,
Oh,
there-
no, I'm upside down.
No, you're not. No, you're
No, okay.
there you go. Do 90 degrees.
pulling
It's
9Gs. I'm pulling 9Gs. It's like one of those blue
not
arrow, red arrow videos.
Don't
No,
worry, it obviously
that
has
okay?
rotation. Well, I was
yes,
gonna say,
great.
it's
I'll do this.
It's upside
Let's do
down.
this, sweetheart. You look great now. Oh, thank you.
it obviously has
What's the
rotation.
matter with you?
It obviously,
I'm doing this.
it obviously has rotation.
How blonde
Don't
is
worry
this
about it.
woman?
We can go back to the other way and then we'll see
Go
the right.
back to the other way.
It's fine.
You're very blonde.
Oh, now we're
You'll
used
forget it. Right. My first question to you, Sue Moxley, my first question to you is how have you got the sheer
Hang on,
nerve?
Russ, hang on.
What?
We have to ask Sue to press the unmute button.
I'm dying here.
Sorry, Sue. This is going well. Oh dear. Oops. Oh, now we're
You
going to.
there now.
No.
No,
sadly
press your
not.
unmute.
We're now going to spend this interview without. Sue, can you speak in sign language?
We can just slag her off now. She can't
No,
hear us.
no, she can hear us. We just
No, she
can't
can't
hear.
hear us. Sue,
There you
you can't. We can't. What are we doing? What?
Sue, there'll be
I
a
got time to make a coffee.
that looks a little bit like a microphone that hopefully if you tap on it, that should unmute.
I got to make another coffee.
Well,
This.
I'm really sorry. I feel dreadful because now I feel like we're causing stress
No,
to
no.
our- on
All
it.
over to you, Phil.
Oh, thanks. Well, isn't this lovely? We've got a guest.
Microphone.
There.
Hello.
Welcome back, Sue.
Thank you.
Oh, dear, oh, dear.
Whoa, what a morning.
Oh, Sue, well, don't worry about it. It's all downward hill from here. Now, look, Sue,
Okay.
in all seriousness, I think one thing I'd like to talk to you about is obviously because I think that to anyone who doesn't know that you are associated with modeling and fashion.
Yes.
And I just wonder, sort of, that world. That has to, I really believe that's got to be one of the most challenging worlds in which to work in, because apart from how competitive it must be, surely that is the kind of industry where everyone is not only worrying about their looks, but are very quick to criticize other people's looks. Can you kind of give us a snapshot, if you will, like an insight into the kind of stresses involved in the modeling world?
Okay, well, I must admit that was quite a few years ago because I am kind of a lot older now. But yes, when I was from 16 to 26, 27, I was
Oh dear, it was
How are we
going
doing? What's going on?
signal. You couldn't make this up, could you?
Oh,
right, I
man.
tell you what we're going to do. We're
I
going
love
to.
that look. I love that. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that look since Ann Summers.
Oh dear, oh dear. Right, okay.
Jesus Christ.
We're going to get
There we
Sue
go.
back in just a
I've
moment.
got a bit of a. I got a thing with Sue. Right, I haven't seen her for years. Right, I haven't seen her for years.
Ah,
She's got the sheer bloody nerve. She doesn't look a day older. How the hell does that work out? I look like my dad, and she looks exactly the same. What the hell? Up,
well,
in, her,
that's the fascinating
up
thing
in
is,
her attic, there must be a portrait. It's like, wow.
well, I was just speaking to Sue just then about her time in modeling, and I was talking in particular about some of the pressures that clearly some models, especially in this day and age, but I would imagine in any age of modeling, come up against, and what it must be like to have that kind of pressure on you. And of course, Sue was just sort of saying that that is actually quite a while ago for her. But of course, you'd be forgiven for thinking that's not the case.
Oh, I know.
Because, frankly,
It is amazing. There's some people you look at and you think, how the bloody hell have they done that? I think we're getting. You're not, but I'm getting to the stage where I haven't seen someone for a while. And sometimes you think, Jesus. Some of my oldest friends, you go, Christ, what the hell's happened to you? I'm thinking it. I don't say it. Not that rude. And other people, you think they look terrific. Occasionally you bump into people. One of the days when we could bump into people in the happy days, and you think they look great. What the hell's going on with them? It's an extraordinary thing. I mean, you do have to take care of yourself a bit. Some of it's genetic, some of it's genes. I wear Tesco's jeans. Moving on. Right. Sen Monroe, you got a face for radio, you got an ass for radio as well, to be honest with you, Sen. I'll be quite frank. I'm frank. My cousin says I'm exactly the same. I look, Franny, I look like my dad now. I look in the mirror and go, hi, Pop. It just scares the crap out of me. I mean, I just look ridiculous. What the hell's happened? They might say the same of you. Ha, 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 ha. Shut up, Sen. Yeah, I told him like that. A little bit disappointed with the old Sen Monroe because through my pal Tony Klinger, there's a movie happening. I haven't had any offers of a role. Not a sausage. They haven't said there's a leading man role, there's a sophisticated bon viveur role. Nothing. There's a bloke who's like an extra in a supermarket role. Nothing. It's the last time I ever extend the hand of friendship. Well, no, hang on. No, he owes me cufflinks and a typing. I better stay in with him. Okay. Are we getting we can't afford you.
I think we've got Sue back.
You ass.
Say that again.
There she is. Can you hear us now, Sue Lovely Moxley? Oh, gee.
Dear, oh dear.
What is happening? She's talking. I think she's saying, Russ, you're the most handsome man I've ever seen. Any danger? Do you think she's saying that? Unlikely. You never know.
Right. I tell you what we're going to do, Sue, because we've actually got very limited time for you now. So what we'll do is we are going to
phone her up.
Yeah, we're going to get you on the phone. So hold that thought. I'm going to phone you right now. There we go. That's all right, but it's fine. We'll do it. Russ, hold that thought.
Yeah. So there's no stereotypical. I won't mind. She's on to talk about something so serious. I can't help it. This is what sets me off. I know my cousin Francine will be watching, going, "Oh God, Russ will be dying inside." I know. It's what sets me off. I arranged all this. She's got this serious thing, and it turns into the Benny Hill show. Let's be honest about it. Sen, you won't go round there. As far as I know, she's married. I've known the husband for years. I presume they're still together. I don't know. I'm not going to mention it. Don't mention it, just in case. You never know these days. You don't know, You could say, how's so-and-so? We got divorced. Oh, you feel like an idiot, you know. Anyway, so Sen, you're going to be going around and help. Yeah, you and Kanam Janur, the pair of you, the Morecambe and Wise of lechery. How are we doing, Philip? Any chance?
Well, clearly you'd be the first to know if there was a chance. So you keep going.
I know, I'm just filling. I'm just filling. In your case, to fill in.
Yeah, you keep going and we're on it. There we go.
Isn't it the weirdest thing? Our last guest, who was a sensation, I was in all seriousness,
Hello.
Is the pizza's nearly ready? I ordered them 20 minutes ago. They haven't turned up. I got people here. Forget it. It's just one of my phone calls. That's how I am. So I was so to fill in. What can you do? You can take the boy out of Finchley. You can't take Finchley out of the boy. Arrange for what's all about you suddenly? You come back for your MRI scan. Have we got her? Have we got Sue? Yeah.
Hooray!
Oh, I love I. Marvelous, fantastic. Right.
When I disappeared, I was actually discussing with my friend how good looking you both are. So
you're not wrong. You're not wrong, Sue. Let's be honest about it, and you would know. You would know about these things. Now, I've got a question for you, Sue Moxley. Is this right? Yeah. I haven't seen, before we get onto your subject, I haven't seen you in years, and you're younger than ever, and it's a bloody cheek, frankly.
Oh, thank you. It's all the surgery and the injections and all of those things.
Oh, yeah, great. Thank you. There I was bigging you up, and so it's all fake.
No, it isn't actually. I think I've got lots of genes. My mum looks good. She lives with me, and she's 91.
She's 91. Blimey, blessed, right?
She's 91.
Well, you're what are you now? 35, 36 tops, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's how I remember you. If that, frankly. Well, you look fantastic, and every guy's going, "Oh, I'm going to pop round and see if I can help her with her communications." And every woman's going, "Who is this bitch? We hate her. Who is this cow? Come on."
I think we had a problem yesterday with the internet, and I thought we got it sorted, but obviously I don't think we did. So
Sue, you're boring me now. I'll be honest with you, you're boring me now. Okay, so let's get on to the subject because I wanted you to talk about this thing. You came across and I said, "Oh, let's get you on. It'd be great." So you crack on. I wish we could see you. We've got a very glamorous picture of you up. You look great. So there we are. Well, Ken Elm, shut up, put it away, and leave it. Right, off you go, Sue.
I was going to talk to you about the menopause, but did Phil want to ask me about the modelling?
Oh, do you know what? I tell you what. So it's very simple. I started off with that because there was actually time. Well, there was time to talk about it then. But to be perfectly honest with you, now that I've managed to shatter the time thanks to the technology, let's get straight in there at what you are actually here to talk about, which of course is the menopause.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. I'm very passionate about it because it's something that can be really, really, really bad for some women, and I suffered very badly from it, which was a complete shock to the system. So I don't know if it's a man thing really, but
well, I mean, they say in jest the menopause, don't they? But I think that's obviously flippancy. But can I just, bearing in mind that I'm imagining that Russ and I don't necessarily have an understanding of the menopause too much.
This is where you would be wrong, young Philip, as I've just helped to write an entire book about it.
Hang on. But can you just clarify, how does one know the difference between suffering badly with the menopause and everything that's happened being normal?
Right. So I'll tell you what happened to me. I was probably about 50, and because I'm not really 37, and
what?
Yeah, exactly. I started.
Kidding me?
No, I know.
Forget Saturday. Forget it. You're right.
Yeah. So it started with when your period stopped, then you start to put on weight, and all my life I'd been a size 10 and never had to worry about that kind of thing, dieting, etc. So that was quite a shock to the system with the weight gain, which then caused me to diet quite often, and I would diet and then I would suddenly break out and binge eat. So I then became a binge eater because of the menopause, which is another story, to be honest. Maybe I'll talk about that another time, because it's something that lots of people suffer from, and once you have a binge eating disorder, it's very hard to get rid of, and
absolutely,
people are ashamed of it, and they don't talk about it, and they eat in private or in the car and all that kind of thing. But I've finally come through that, but it's taken me about 5 years. But the other thing that is really bad about the menopause is, you hear about the hot sweats, boys, yeah?
Just a bit, yep.
I am aware of this. I can't say I've experienced it.
I love it when I used to have dinner with friends, and they'd bring out the fans from the handbags, and they're suddenly sitting there, and it's like Niagara Falls coming down their face, and they get all embarrassed and say, "Don't worry about it."
So true. Yeah, that is so true. And it is embarrassing, but it's very uncomfortable as well. That solution was quite easy, because I managed to find a duvet that has a thin piece on one side. This is a double duvet, and a thick piece on the other side. Did you know that existed? So you've got a 15 tog on half of it, and then a 2 tog on the other half. So that can save marriages. In case anyone
did it work for you? This is the thing we all need to.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So David could be nice and snug, and you were cool as a cuke.
Exactly. Okay. There was no arguing, because.
Did you ever get it the wrong way round, though?
Yeah. So,
no.
So David was freezing, and you were a puddle.
Passion, maybe it might have turned itself around, but but no, I would always have the cool side. And
now, before we get on to something, I've got to say hello to you from Ed Grossman. Ed used to represent David when he was in Guys and Dolls.
oh wow, many
Yeah, small world or what?
yeah, many
It's actually a bit smaller than that, but we're not talking about that on air. Right, okie dokie, on you go. So you've got this fabulous magic duvet saving your marriage.
Yeah, so that dealt with the hot sweats. But what people don't understand, and this is very personal, guys, but I will put it out there, is that when you go through the menopause, you lose more estrogen. Your estrogen levels go way down to what they used to be, and that causes many things. And one of them, it causes skin to thin, and I'm talking about on your face, but also in all sorts of private areas. And many women deal with that by taking HRT or estrogen cream and that kind of thing, but that didn't work for me. And I was in pain because what no one ever explained to me is that when your skin becomes that thin due to lack of estrogen, your nerve endings can be exposed. I bet you've never heard anything like this before, have you?
Not about the nerve endings, no.
No. So when your nerve endings are exposed, kind of like in a personal place, you're in constant pain because it's a bit like going to the dentist and someone taking your tooth out and your nerves are exposed. You know that kind of pain. It is excruciating.
Oh dear God, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really bad. And I know that lots of women out there don't like to talk about it because it's embarrassing and all of those things. But after 5 years of research and trying different medications, including amitriptyline, which one doctor put me on because what it does is it kind of dulls the nerve endings, yeah? But amitriptyline is not a great thing to take on a permanent basis, and can make you very unwell, and who wants to take something that strong all the time? But eventually I did find an answer, and I was on a Facebook site actually, and there was girls on there that were in a similar situation to me, and someone told me about a machine which you can go along to, and it's this really too graphic for you guys.
No, I'm loving every minute, to be perfectly honest with you, but that's just me.
You what?
I'm loving every minute of it, but that's just me. Go on.
Sakes,
Okay,
ignore
so-
Russ. You're absolutely fine, Sue. Thank you. Please
Don't be
carry on.
silly, carry on. Carry on. It's grown-up radio. We're all over 21. It's fine.
Yeah, I can hope that maybe I can help someone out there, really.
Of course you can. You're being terrific.
So, so I sat this girl on Facebook. She said, "Have you ever heard of this machine?" I won't mention the brand name, but I'd never heard of anything like it before. But so I googled it, and it's basically a laser machine that is inserted internally and used externally, and it thickens the skin.
Good Lord.
Yeah, exactly. So after 5 years of being in pain and trying sorts of creams and HRTs and all of this, I tracked down one of these machines, which funnily enough was in Essex, where I live. There's only 3 in the whole country. And I was treated, and within the first treatment, I was kind of 60% better. And by the second treatment, I was cured. And
Good God.
it was like a miracle. And so together with having that, once a year, I go along and have that treatment. So basically thickens the skin, so your nerve endings are not exposed, takes away all the pain and all of that kind of trauma and the horror. It was so horrible. So I have that done once a year. I do take bioidentical hormone creams, which, if you guys don't know what that is, it's hormone creams that are made especially for you. So you have blood tests, and they see exactly what you're lacking in, and they make those creams for you. So it's not a one fits all. It's especially for that particular person.
Okay.
And take the CBD oil. Have you heard of CBD oil?
We've got a series of shows coming on about CBD oil, bizarrely. I had the emails confirming it only this morning. Been working on it for months. Yes, we do.
You need to talk to me about it because I'm an expert on it.
Well, we'll get you on the show. We'll get you on the new CBD oil show, which we're very, very excited about at Men's Radio, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I take CBD oil every day. I also have a beauty clinic. I don't know if you know that, but I do have CBD oil here. I've done courses on it. I teach people about it because it's just amazing. And yeah, I feel like I'm actually getting quite emotional.
Well, then you can be one of our first. This is great. I had no idea about that. I knew the rest of it. So hang on a minute. Now I want to go back to this magic Doctor Who machine that you go to in Essex. You go there once a year. How long is the process?
Oh, about 20 minutes.
That's it? That's it?
Yes, it's 20 minutes. When you first have it done, you have about 3 or 4 treatments, but then you just maintain it once a year. And I don't know how many machines in the UK now, but in Italy, they have it on the National Health. Yeah. In this country, it costs £500 a go. So it's something that I would love to see on the National Health so that it can help many, many women out there. Basically, that's something that I try to, and that's why I need to get it out there. I need to get it out there so that it becomes more, common knowledge, and then maybe we can get it on the NHS for women that suffer the same as what I suffered.
So the people that created this machine, was this invented over here in the States, Germany? Where did this come from? This thing?
It is Italian, and I actually met the doctor because I went along and did a speech for them to other doctors, because I was so amazed that it's taken me 5 years to find something that then cured me with two treatments, that took 20 minutes.
That's almost like magic. I thought you were going to say you have to go every month, and after 6 months you saw some changes, and you're saying you went once, 20 minutes later you're 60% better. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I'm not saying maybe other women might need to go more often than me, and they might need to go once every 3 months or twice a year. For me, I found that once a year is absolutely fine. And it was like a miracle. Honestly, it was like a miracle. When I met the man that made the machine, I actually gave him a great big hug.
And he must have hated that. You must have really hated that.
Yeah, I said to him, you really changed my life. And he said, that's why I invented in this Italian accent. I'm not very good at accents. But he said, that's why I did it. And I've changed many women's lives here in Italy. And in America, it's much easier to get hold of as well. But also out there, they have to pay for everything, don't they?
Everything. I don't think people over here have any idea what it costs to get ill in America. It's a nightmare.
How much would you say that you knew already? How much would you say that you learnt as you went along, as it were? I'm just trying to gauge, as it were, sort of how prepared you were.
No, I actually feel like I'm an expert on menopause now. Because of everything that I learned along the way. And it was such a simple thing that no one, it's obvious, isn't it? If you have nerve endings that are exposed and people are giving you nerve ending drugs and, trying to give you creams and all sorts of things, and then someone manages to thicken your skin with a laser, and then miraculously you're cured. And it wasn't, that's why I tell my story. I've done it in menopause magazines and that kind of thing. The Daily Mail asked me to do the story, but I refused because they asked for a picture of David, and I knew they were going to put a spin on it. And
of course they were. You think Daily Mail?
think.
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I wouldn't. There was no way I was going to do that because.
However,
They
in
would've
the
turned it-
absence of anyone from the Daily Mail,
Yeah.
we have to give them for the
Yeah.
benefit of the doubt and
No,
say
we don't.
there
No,
was
we
actually a
don't.
reason why they wanted to do that. But anyway, let's not
No,
focus.
they won't get any. They won't get any. No.
Okay, but
No,
anyway,
they
that's
would have put a wrong angle.
fine. But anyway, that's to one side. More importantly, what message would you offer out to maybe other women who are, let's say they're on the start of their menopausal journey? What would you wish someone would have told you from the word go to help you?
Well, maybe if you're getting symptoms and you go to the doctor and they gave you HRT. HRT is made, it's like one fits all, and we're not all the same, and we're not, estrogen levels vary between women and testosterone. So if you can afford it, I would go to a clinic where you can get your levels worked out by, injections, blood tests, etc. That would be a good start, because then you can get your hormone cream made especially for you and your levels and what you're lacking in, rather than
Is the hormone cream very expensive? Don't give me an exact price, but is it like a fortune or is it affordable?
It is. I mean, it's about £90, but it lasts 3 months, so that's not that bad, is it really? For something that can make you feel very well. But yeah, once again, it's a shame that it's not on the NHS, but it isn't. If you're having a similar problem to me, they could always email me at my website and I could tell them where I went, or the machine. There's another machine available now, which is a different name, but it does a similar thing. And I can point them in the right direction to go and have that treatment
Okay.
I had, if they want to do that. Or I'm on Facebook as well. Just send me.
But how do people get hold of you?
Well, I have a website.
And Ken Elm, back it up. Stop it. That's not what I mean. How do people get hold of you, Sue?
Yeah. Well, what do you want me to tell you my website on air?
Yeah, sure.
Or yeah, it's Sue Moxley.
Only if you want. Don't. If you don't.
No. SueMoxleyBeauty.co.uk.
Say it slowly. Sue Moxley Beauty, all one word.
Yeah, so it's www.suemoxleybeauty, all one word, .co.uk. And I can also talk tell you about CBD as well. So
Yeah, we'll get you on the CBD show. The CBD show will be starting in a few weeks' time. And oddly enough,
sorry,
you would not know this. Oddly enough, in beginning of September, we're doing a whole special on the menopause. So we'll get you back.
Oh, are you?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes, we are. And we're doing, and there's a promotion and all sorts of things, which I haven't bothered to tell Phil the details, which I've been working on for months. So, yeah. Glassy Amanda, here's a question for you. Does the hormone cream have side effects?
Sorry, could you say that again?
Does the hormone cream have side effects?
No, you won't get any side effects.
Okay.
Well,
that's a question from one of the listeners.
Tiny side effect. I have testosterone in my hormone cream, yeah, and obviously you rub it on your lady part. At one point, I did rub it on my leg every day, and I grew hair on my leg.
Good Lord.
That's true.
Wow.
So yeah, I stopped that.
I thought you were going to say you grew a penis. That would have been awkward.
No, but there you go, guys. You need to rub testosterone cream into your hair, and you won't get a bald head. There you go.
Okay. Well, Stan Monroe's making a note.
Good heavens.
Like we're running out of time. Sue,
You're on radio. That might well be it, but there you go.
Sue, will you come back? Because I need you for about another 2 shows. So, and you've got loads more to say. Would you come back?
Definitely CBD, because have you got 1 minute? Can I tell you this 1 minute really quickly?
I tell you what, we need to ask Chantal Rickards. Chantal, give us a thumbs up if you've got 1 minute.
I'll save it.
Yes, we've got 1 minute. There you go.
Okay, so there was a lady that was trying to get her periods to start, and she'd been to many doctors because she wanted to have a baby, and she took CBD oil for 6 weeks, 3 times a day, and she has started her periods and now trying for a baby. So there you go. That's
Wow.
how amazing it can be.
I'm not letting it near certain people in my life then. Okay, good. Right, Sue, thank you for joining us. Bloody hell, the last thing I need. I'd rather have another dog. Sue, another 2 dogs will be fine. Sue, bless you. Thank you. Love to David.
Just to let you know, it was arguably just as memorable. So
It was great. And we're going to see you and speak to you very soon, okay?
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Sue.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Sue.
Bye. Wow.
We love Sue.
Merciful heavens.
Known her for years.
That was quite the eye-opener, if you'll forgive the pun.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway. Okay.
So I just alluded there to 2 of the things we're going to be doing, Phil, which I know you don't know, but I've been working on it for like months.
I can see in the digital green room, Chantal Rickards has never looked so horrified. Honestly, I'm mortified. But anyway, no.
Well, your jacket's not that bad.
Oh,
It's nice. I like your jacket. She's a bit of a critic, old Chantal.
so classy, and now we've lowered it. Oh, dear.
Right. Ed, get Guys and Dolls back together. Get them back together. Okay, right.
Ed, you're not helping. She was so honest and open. Stop it.
No,
Anyway.
she is being serious.
Oh, I
She's
see.
being serious. God almighty. Get Chantal up for the love of television.
What a great idea. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time of the week where we take a little breather because, as you know, we can get quite heavy with the subjects we cover on this program. And we like a little bit of light relief to end the week. So there is only one person glamorous enough and wise enough to help us in that particular endeavor. Sadly, they weren't available. So let's welcome.
Very clever.
That's so horrible, and I apologize on behalf.
It's an old joke. It's an old. Get some new material, Phil.
Yes,
Yeah.
Everyone's a critic.
You can't give me
telling
credit.
you.
You can't give me credit for being able to come up with new material. Chantal, do you have a bandage on? Have you hurt yourself?
I'm
Oh my
pretending
God,
to be Keith Lemon. Well, I'm not pretending to be Keith Lemon.
What have you done?
I had a fight with a pot of coffee, and I'm afraid the coffee pot won.
Ow!
Yeah,
Oh,
not
crap!
clever.
How?
It was all
slip
about the
out-
plunger.
Oh God! And the boiling coffee came all over your hand. Oh
Yeah.
Jesus! Ow! Ow!
Wow.
Ow.
So
When was
actually,
this?
for those that are interested, a lot of people won't be. But
No, we are.
I went to Chelsea and Westminster about 4 days after it happened because I thought it's not looking good. And actually, they gave me something that was completely new, that is a revolution around the world. So instead of giving you antibiotic cream to put on an open wound, they now give you honey. I don't know if you'd heard that before,
What?
but I'd never heard that before. It's called Manuka honey.
I mean,
Okay.
It's a
honey, yeah.
special medicinal grade of honey and is
Yeah.
as effective as an antibiotic ointment, which I thought was fantastic. If only I'd known.
Wow.
So they put Manuka honey, which costs a blooming fortune if you go to Tesco's or anywhere. It's mad money, right? And then they've put this sort of bandage on top.
Yeah,
And it's
well,
working?
yeah. Well, it's keeping anything from getting at it. I kept knocking it and then kept making it worse. So
Ow.
anyway, the bandage is
Ow.
there pretty much for protection.
Right. Anyway.
Anyway, enough of that.
Interestingly, Andrea Lucas is saying
Well-
that they had to do whatever she had done with her stomach. They used Manuka honey on that.
Well, there we are. It's obviously catching on.
That'd be the
Goodness.
thing. And suddenly bees are everywhere, and you're wandering around with bees.
Either
Ah.
money, or she was implying that maybe she burnt herself on her stomach last year. I'm not sure if it's one of the
What
two.
the hell was she going with coffee on her stomach? How did that work? What's the matter with the woman? Right. Chantal, well, we wish you well.
Thank you.
That is, people forget that boiling hot coffee in those confetti airs, man, that hurts.
Yeah.
That really
Anyway.
hurts.
Thank you. Right. Andy's corrected you. No, she scalded herself on her stomach. You fool. Anyway, right. Okay. Let's begin what can only be described as this. Yes, we love TV here at Men's Radio. Thank you. A little bit of light relief. You've got dust all over your computer now, Russ.
God. Oh, man. What the hell?
Sake.
All right.
Chantal Rickards, please.
How are you guys?
Well,
Yeah, we're
first,
good. We're good. Thank you.
we're reasonably okay, thank you. Very unhappy.
That's because I use an espresso machine. The chances of getting scalded from that are pretty slim.
Do you know what?
I thought you were getting a bit demob happy being it Friday afternoon of a bank holiday weekend. I thought you were being a little bit skittish earlier on.
Skittish. No, it's been quite a, I'll be honest with you, it's been quite a heavy week. And I knew that some of these conversations coming up in the show were going to be quite heavy as well. And I was full of trepidation of the chat that we had, who turned out to be absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, I guess so. It's the way we deal with it. By the way, straight in, Andrea Lucas, Chantal, loving Call My Agent. Thank you for that recommendation. Yeah, loving that.
Excellent.
Loving that. My daughter informs me there is a character in Call My Agent. Said they all turned round, her and her husband, everyone went, "That's Dad." And I really, really worry because the last time they did that, Chantal, my daughter said, "You know, Curb Your Enthusiasm." I went, "Yeah."
Oh.
And they get, you know, the Lewis, the guy, Richard Lewis. They said every time we watch, they go, "That's Dad." And I think I just really worry how my kids see me. They think I'm the Richard Lewis character from Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's very worrying.
Oh
Anywho,
dear.
there we go. Right. What has attracted your erudite eye since we last met?
Well, so not all fun and games. And the thing I was going to start with isn't a laugh a minute, because actually I ended up watching the last few scenes with tears rolling down my cheeks, but it's that good in a way.
Okay.
It's incredibly emotional. And I know a couple of times we've touched on grief on this show, and I know that some listeners, you know, attribute their mental wellness to how they are coping with grief in their life.
Yeah.
But if you didn't see, it was a 90-minute drama on BBC One earlier on this week called Anthony. You absolutely need to watch it. It's a story about a real child called Anthony, who 15 years ago, nearly to the day, was murdered in a racist attack in Huyton in Liverpool.
Mhm.
And this is the story of how his life might have been.
Oh,
So it basically starts 15 years from where his life ended, and takes on an entirely made-up story of actually where his life might have gone. What's interesting is it was his mother who approached the writer, Jimmy McGovern. And she'd actually worked with Jimmy in the past. Jimmy had started his career on Brookside and Coronation Street, and he made Cracker. But when he was writing about grief, he would go to this woman who was the mother of this murdered child in Liverpool and ask her about how she was coping with grief so that he could write about it authentically. And one might say, why write about a life that didn't happen in the way that this drama has done? But because I think it was validated because the mother asked him to write it. It's just beautifully authentic, even though it's a lovely fairy tale about what the next 15 years of this young man's life might have been. And he was a young man with great promise that clearly got cut way too short. But it's a beautiful drama. It will definitely win awards. Not everything I tell you about is award winning. This absolutely is. So take it for what it is. You know, if you've lost a child, you might feel that this is inappropriate in some ways, but actually it ended up feeling that there is hope in the world. And it's just a beautiful story. So it's definitely one to watch.
You're
it's called Anthony.
You're having a bit of an impact because Glassy Amanda, who is a professional in this area, is saying downloading Anthony now. Sounds awesome. Blimey, talking about having instant impact on the listeners. Bravo you.
I don't think though, that people would question it, you know, when they say, why would you write about the life that never was? Because I actually believe that that's considerably more poignant than anyone who actually lived their life and carried out whatever accomplishment they may have done. Because what that's highlighting is look at all that could have lay ahead for someone who's now been extinguished.
Indeed, although I was talking to somebody this morning who lost a teenage child, and his opinion was that actually it wasn't right to do it because it was just too desperately sad to try and imagine how his son's life might have turned out. And it was not going to watch it. And that's absolutely fine that he's not going to watch
anyone
it.
who's had a deep tragedy, a deep tragedy of like that, you can't be prescriptive, can you, Chantal? You can't say you should, because some things you just there's certain things I can't watch because it's just like pressing a button and I don't want to see it.
So
I don't want to see it. It's as simple as that.
It's called Anthony, and that's available on BBC iPlayer. Is that right?
BBC iPlayer. It came out on Monday. The reviews are astonishingly good. And if you're up to it, it's a great drama, and will definitely win awards. So completely different to that, I found another documentary on the BBC this week that I know last week we talked about the Hasidic documentary story that was on Sky recently.
Yes.
But this is something called Inside the Bruderhof, which is a story about a village in East Sussex, just on the Sussex-Kent border, where there are 300 people living in a sort of radical Christian community. And they're like the Amish. They dress rather like the Amish. The women wear very long, baggy clothes so that you can't see their shape. Everything is done in a communal way. Nobody owns anything. There is no electricity. They've been in this village for 50 years. I'd never heard of them before.
Never heard of this at all.
Wow.
And one of the central characters is an 18-year-old girl who is sent to Peckham in southeast London for a year. And that's where they decide whether they want to actually become an adult and stay inside the community.
Christ, if she's sent to Peckham, she'd be running back to that community. God almighty.
Well, that's the sort of cliffhanger that you sort of need to wait to find out what she decides.
I suggest, though, that it seems very appropriate somehow that the director of said program's name is Emma Pentecost. So, there we are. It's almost.
I didn't
never heard of this at all. So, there is a whole community in. You're saying Sussex? Sorry,
East Sussex, just south
East Sussex.
South of Hurst Green, near Robertsbridge.
What is?
It's called Darville. The village is called Darville. I had never heard of it before.
So what is Bruderhof? What does Bruderhof mean?
The Bruderhof is the community, and the community isn't just these 300 people. There is a community of, I can't remember, 20 or 30,000 around the world.
What?
And this is just the sort of the little British setup. They don't have money. Everything is shared. Every meal is taken together. It's really quite extraordinary. You order your clothes and you say, I'll just have one black jacket, please. And somebody makes you a black jacket and then you're given it. And it's the same as the black jacket.
And then they say, haven't you got anything a little less garish?
There's nothing garish at all. The clothes are all very, very sober. And the way that they dress is very sober. They are very sober people.
Do you know what, Chantal? It occurs to me in all seriousness, with all the madness and craziness and uncertainty and scariness that we're living through now and will do for the foreseeable future, I can it's not for me. I say that it's not for me, but I really can get now why some people would say we've had enough with the outside world. It stinks. Let's just have our little community, and the rest of the world can go to hell in a handcart, which it is. I can get that. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't like it, but I have a total respect for people who want to do that.
Yeah, they come across as very content people.
Yeah,
and a lot of people strive for happiness all the time, and without getting too sort of heavy about it, happiness is always a little bit ethereal, and you're never quite sure where you are on the happiness scale. And some people think they deserve to be happy all the time.
It's illusional.
But contentedness ain't bad.
Do you know, people say, if somebody said to me, would you rather be rich or would you rather be content? I'd rather be content.
Yeah.
I really would. I think it's a very important thing. And I think the more crazy this world gets, I totally understand why people just want to withdraw from, because you think, I'm not enjoying this.
Yeah. So they're in a permanent lockdown, in effect. But sort of quite interesting to see inside a community that most of us, don't have any contact with. But
so Chantal, when the kid went to Peckham, let's get over my initial gag. But when the kid went to Peckham, she dressed in this black tent, or is she now in jeans?
No,
and
she's dressed in very sober clothes. You know, she's got a long skirt on that goes down to nearly her ankles, and clearly not wearing makeup. No, she looks different, quite simply. Their dress is very like you know that you're in an Amish community in Pennsylvania when you drive through the Amish. It's not the black and white like the Amish, but you absolutely know that these people look as though they come from another century.
Well, you know you're there because Harrison Ford suddenly turns up and then drowns the guy in the silo. That's how you know you're in an Amish community.
I love that film.
Great film. It was terrific. I love that film. All right. Ed Grossman, do they make pies?
Do they make pies? I don't know, but they make their money out of making children's toys. So that's where the money comes from. Because my first question was, who's paying for all of this?
Yeah, because they can't grow it. I mean, I'm just fascinated. Do they grow everything there? Or they pop
No,
I'm not being facetious. They pop to Tesco's and get bread and milk, or how does it work?
I think everything comes into a central store, and there is a community, a canteen kitchen, and there are people who work in the kitchen all the time who serve all the meals, and they all sit down every day.
The stuff coming into the central store has to be. I'm sorry, this is just my logical mind. You know, I drill down. It's got to be paid for, isn't it? You know, you can't wander into Costco and say, "Hey, I'm part of this religious community. Take what you want." No, they're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah. No, all comes from making toys. Anyway, it's interesting and it's worth watching. It's not something that we would all go out and go, oh, I'm really going to look for a documentary like this. But if you fall across it, it's a really good 1 hour documentary. It's worth watching.
You've already resonated again, Paul Claridge. I watched the documentary Inside the Bruderhof. I found it fascinating. I have friends and family who live in that area of Sussex. Even they didn't know that this village exists.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so worth watching. But then at the other end of the scale, we were talking about, you know, people who want to be rich or don't want to be rich. And I came across a documentary film that came out in the cinema at the end of last year. I clearly missed it at the time. A lot of us will have missed stuff that came out right at the end of the last year. But it's now on Sky Documentaries channel. And it's a documentary film called Framing John DeLorean. I wouldn't normally watch a documentary about a car manufacturer, but it's incredibly interesting.
Yes,
again, the story is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And he was Coke. Yeah, indeed. Well, I mean, he was driven in so many ways, you know, every pun intended. He was driven to be a great car manufacturer. He wanted the best sports car in the world. Yeah. And he was desperate for the business to succeed, a business that he brought to Belfast, where there was no car making community at all, but he got lots of benefit from the British government to bring it there. And of course, the whole thing went horribly wrong. And as it was going wrong, and as the money was running out, he then gets involved in this ridiculous cocaine purchase, which is all being monitored by the FBI. It's an extraordinary story. I had no idea. Of course, I knew who DeLorean was. We all know the car from Back to the Future. Yeah. But the story of the rise of this extraordinary industrialist to this broken human being is really fascinating.
I haven't seen the documentary, but because being a petrol head, of course, I was always fascinated with the whole history of DeLorean, and when you see how he looks, he looks like a film star. There's a hint of the George Clooney about him. First, a very good-looking, charismatic guy, and by the end of it, you see this kind of defeated, haggard wreck of a guy because everything's gone catastrophically wrong. Not the least of which the car was terrible. It's a shocking car. Looked great, but it was an absolute piece of garbage. So yeah, it's a real human. It's a real human nature journey, isn't it?
Indeed. He becomes a born-again Christian at the end, and you see his children being interviewed. And I think that's where it becomes a little bit heartbreaking, because the human story, to be the children of somebody like that must be really, really tough.
He's dead now,
he found contentedness, but the children I don't think have.
Not a nice legacy. Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? Because just psychologically, you think of the DeLorean, you think of all the great times of the the 3 Back to the Future movies, and it's got just nothing but happy, great memories. And the reality was, it was a horrible car with a terrible backstory full of tragedies. It's a great paradox, isn't it?
It is. It
As
is.
everyone says, Tesla ought to watch out.
Well, he was kind of the first Elon Musk with his desire to have his own car.
Yeah.
Elon Musk has done a magnificent job, and it worked. There we are. Different times. What else has
So, if you didn't ever watch the Strike series on the BBC, it's drama. It's a sort of, it's not a cop drama because he's a sleuth. He's a gumshoe. He's ex-British military. He turns private eye. The stories were written by Robert Galbraith, who, as we now know, is J.K. Rowling.
Oh, Strike those Cormorant Strike.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, I love Cormorant Strike.
Good.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you do. Well, the new series starts this coming Sunday. Good.
Oh, does it?
So there have been 3 series so far, but very, very short. I think the first one only had a couple of episodes in it.
About 3,
Second one had a couple of episodes, and then I think the third series had 3 episodes. This one's got four episodes in it. The actor whose name escapes me, Tom Burke, actually, is brilliant. He's a really, really good character. He's playing an ex-veteran who has lost a lower leg, which is, must be pretty tough, actually. And he's incredibly good. I didn't know him before I started watching the Strike series a few years ago. And I'm really looking forward to the 4th series coming up Sunday night on BBC One.
You know the backstory to that?
New dramas coming back in on the BBC.
Oh, wow.
No, I don't know the backstory to it.
Well, it came under the name of Robert Galbraith, and every publisher turned it down. Everyone. They all turned it down. And then J.K. Rowling's agent just thought, oh, Christ, this isn't going well. So just happened casually. I only know this from my literary agent. Casually in a pub, kind of came out. Oh, by the way, oops, Robert Galbraith's actually J.K. Rowling. Boom. Boom.
Interesting.
But they'd all
turned it down. That was quite deliberate. I mean, by the sound of it.
Not for me to say. Not for me. It's not for me at all to comment. Far be it. But I enjoyed the books. I know they came in for a lot of criticism, and but I enjoyed the books, and it was a fantastic move away from the Harry Potter stuff. It was completely different. They are proper sort of Raymond Chandler-esque, film. They're kind of film noir. It could easily be set in LA in 1942, as it could be. He's in sort of Soho, isn't he? He's got some horrible flat.
Denmark Street.
Denmark.
Denmark
Street. Tin Pan Alley. He's got a dump of an office. It's interesting stuff.
It is. It's good.
Good. I'm glad that's coming back.
Yeah,
that's on BBC, did you say?
BBC One Sunday night.
Lovely.
So you tell that the BBC are, pulling out all the sort of, the good schedules, the good things for the schedules towards this last bit of the year.
Very quick question, and only you would know this because I haven't the faintest idea. Winter is coming. No pun intended. I'm not doing the gag. And everyone, instead of being able to sit outside, they're going to be stuck. Right? Have they been able to make new programs? Are we going to be regurgitating, Tomorrow's World with Raymond Baxter or something? What are we going to be watching?
Yeah, most productions stopped completely, and they're creeping back into production now. Netflix have got quite a lot that is in the pipeline. Some of the domestic channels in the UK have got less. They've got fewer resources to start with. So it's going to take some time. So what we'll get for the new season is things that were going through the post-production phase as lockdown happened. A lot of editing has been able to be moved into people's homes. So that bit has carried on, but filming as such was just completely stopped. So filming has now started on a lot of things, but not on everything by any stretch of the imagination. A lot of studio programs are still very difficult for people to film under those circumstances. Hollywood hasn't quite gone back to work. People are beginning to say that full production probably won't really kick in until the beginning of next year, but nobody quite knows. The British government are helping the filmmaking community in this country by helping them out with their insurance, because insurance policies have gone, through the roof because of COVID.
Of course.
So
Ed Grossman is saying the 2 episodes of Laurel Canyon expire on Sky this weekend, not to be missed.
Oh, okay.
Laurel Canyon, don't know it, but if
I know. Well, I know Laurel Canyon, but I don't know the show, so I'll have a look out for that. Thank you, Ed.
Around the corner.
Just to shoehorn in, I mean, I can't believe how, I'm quite late to the party. I told you a few weeks back, a few months ago now, that I only just about managed to catch up with Life on Mars and Ashes to Ashes only very recently. In fact, I only finished watching Ashes to Ashes this week, just gone. So There you go. Goes to show how much I stretch these things out. Well, I finally got round to watching The Crown on Netflix, and so I'm loving it. So
good. Gosh, you are late to the party. Yeah, The Crown is a cracker.
Right, I've just started watching the Black and White Minstrel Show. That's how far I've got to catch up.
I don't think you'll find those anywhere.
I've heard about this great new series on radio called Listen with Mother. I might give it a try.
That's a winner. That'll work.
Right, that's it. That's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much.
Wish you better, Chantal. Wish you better.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Mahyar Rezaei, and also very much thank you goes to Sue Moxley. Russ and I, dare I suggest, should we do this all over again on Monday, shall we, at midday? Yeah, why not, indeed. It might be bank holiday, but not everyone rests.
We'll be here.
We'll be here. We'll carry on, and hopefully you will as well. Have yourself a great weekend. Thank you very much for listening and for joining in, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye, everybody.